Fitzpatrick takes the snap, drops back, lobs it back right corner. Decker! He's got it! Touchdown! Eric Decker scores! And the Jets have won it in overtime!
This is the Jet Take with Ben Blessington and Kyle Fahey.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jet Take. I'm your host, Ben Blessington. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Money, Kyle Fahey.
I'm not feeling it, Ben. Ben, I'm not feeling it. I need you to say it louder.
You need me to say this louder? Really?
Yeah.
I'm losing my voice here, so I'm powering through.
Ben, I need you to power through mind over matter, okay?
Brandon Marshall.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Don't stab anybody.
Welcome freaking back. The New York Jets have their franchise quarterback, Sam Darnold from USC. We'll talk about that. Kyle and I are obviously very excited. I mean, I know Kyle, we were both, for the first time ever, Kyle and I actually agreed on something. We were both pretty big Rosen guys, but, you know, I'm a fan of Darnold. I think
you like rich white kids.
Okay. Wow, just get that out of the way. We're really excited about Darnold. We'll talk about him. Obviously, that's going to be the main topic tonight, but the rest of the draft happened this weekend, so we'll talk about what McCaffrey did well and what he didn't do too well. As I mentioned, Kyle Fahey is joining me. You can follow us at the Jet Take on Twitter. That's the best place to follow us. Kyle officially has access to the Twitter again. He is no longer out. He's off probation. He's going to put himself.
I'm already about to say Michael Nania.
Oh boy.
I just sent them a DM the other. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. I'll look at it later. And okay, Kyle, chill. You can also go to turnonthejets.com. That is for the best Jets coverage out there. Had a terrific draft weekend. If you haven't looked out all their instant reaction articles and whatnot, just right away. Right out the oven, just terrific Jets content. So many different podcasts. If you don't like ours, you'll like it. I guarantee you'll like another one. Hopefully you like ours, though. Just great content over there at Turn on the Jets. And, yes, you can follow us at the Jet Take. And you can also find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. Just any place you listen to podcasts, just search up the Jet Take. All right, Kyle. I'm about to lose my voice about 20 minutes into this episode. But let's talk about the big pick, Sam Darnold. I know you were live streaming from our account for about 3 hours. You didn't upload it, so I didn't really have a chance to watch it.
It's on Periscope. So.
All right. But let's get your a reaction to the pick. Kyle, take it away.
First, I would like to say thank you to the four. Okay, I don't know what that was.
I was watching a Mike McCagnon interview earlier, and I opened my phone. It was right on it. My apologies. Continue.
You're lucky that's what it was and not something else. I would like to say thank you to the 400 people that watched the live stream. I was honestly kind of shocked about how many people watched that live. So thank you guys for that. If you watched it live, you knew I wasn't too excited about the pick. Obviously, as Ben said, we're both Rosen guys. And I think I said it before Rosen did, and then Rosen got a lot of hate for it. 9 teams, I think, made the wrong choice there because I think Rosen will ultimately end up being the best quarterback in this draft class. But I think the Jets got a very good quarterback in Sam Darnold. The comparison to Tony Romo that I think both Ben and I have been making for most of the offseason, it's pretty accurate. And if you tell me we get Tony Romo with the 3rd pick in the NFL draft and there's no Tom Brady or Peyton Manning to choose from really in the draft, I'll take it. Darnold is a kid who has high character and matches it on the field, who's only been playing quarterback for 3 years. His mechanics are a little iffy, but he makes it work. It's not like Josh Allen mechanics where it limits him. His mechanics have helped him, and they're just odd enough to where I think a coach could help him broaden his game in certain ways, but perfect for him to where he gets the most out of his body and his build because he's built like a linebacker, and he was recruited as a linebacker in college by some colleges. So, this is a physical individual. He's a pretty good athlete. He's mobile, and he's got a rocket arm with great placement. So I think it's a good pick.
Yeah. Now, I apologize if this bit of a rant is going to be unorganized. And I shouldn't say rant because it's a positive one, I guess. It's a good one.
Stephen A. Smith, here we go.
Stay off the weed. No, I can't even do it.
Stay off
my voice
the damn weed.
At Antonio Callaway. Anyways, back to Sam Darnold.
Did we call the Browns taking him? Were you on that podcast?
Yeah, I think you did say the Browns are going to take Antonio Callaway, which I don't know if it's a great idea to pair him with Josh Gordon, but who knows?
Why? Because he can learn from him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Josh Gordon has matured. And
maybe stop being a dick. How about that one done?
Okay, back to Sam Darnold, back to the Jets, away from Josh Gordon and Weed. Look, I'm really excited about this pick. I said this to Kyle before the show had started. I think a lot of us, and I guess I won't speak for everybody, but a lot of us had primarily focused on Rosen and Mayfield as being the options for the Jets. I watched a bit of Darnold, but it was always like, okay, Darnold's going to go 1. And if he doesn't go 1, he'll probably go 2 to the Giants, or somebody will trade up. So it seemed like it was probably a 10% chance that Darnold was going to fall to the Jets. But it seemed like a lot of Mayfield, Rosen, Allen to a lesser extent. I've watched a lot of Darnold. I've watched pretty much every snap he's taken at this point since we drafted him. And for those who also like to do that, you just have to go look up Sam Darnold versus, and then just go through his schedule for 2016 and 2017, and you'll just see all the throws he makes.
Yeah,
I'm really in love with the prospect.
I'm about to go get us a interview. I'm gonna disappear for like 5 minutes.
All right. Kyle's gonna go get us his dad as an interview or something. Anyway.
I'm gonna get us Harry Nicholson.
Okay, you go do that. Basically, what I was saying is I think that this draft class is going to be a lot like maybe the 2004 draft class. Obviously, that draft class had Big Ben, Eli, Phillip Rivers, and I think this draft class you're looking at a similar thing. We're going to have a lot of great quarterbacks. You're not going to necessarily have. I mean, at the end of the day, there will be some sort of rankings of them in terms of their success, but 3 very good quarterbacks and 3 quarterbacks you can win with. I think Rosen is going to be great, as I was a big fan of him, and so was Kyle. I also think Darnold is going to be great, and I do believe he'll fit in with the Jets, and we'll talk about that in a second. And Mayfield, to a lesser extent, I think will be a great quarterback, or I should say good quarterback. I think, do the Browns have some weapons? Obviously. I just don't know if he was worth that number 1 overall pick, but, I guess I would have been fine if the Jets took him at 3. So I just, as far as my quarterback rankings go, I don't want to waffle. I would still probably put Rosen as the 1, Darnold probably is the 2, and the Mayfield is the 3, and that's a flip from Rosen, Mayfield, Darnold. And I'd always said it was so close, and we'd always said on the show is if you find a way to get Darnold, Rosen, and Mayfield, the Jets won their offseason. If their quarterback is really anybody besides those guys and then maybe Kirk Cousins, this was a L of an offseason. So I said L, not hell. I'm very. Yeah, there you go. We're no longer the explicit warning on this one.
Fuck you, iTunes.
Yeah, but okay, well there you go.
Well, there we go. Yep.
I think Rosen was the safer pick in the sense that I think out of all these quarterbacks, he's the most pro-ready. But I think Darnold has a very, very high ceiling. I mean, so here, let's break down Darnold for a bit. First, he's only 20 years old. That's a huge positive.
He's legal now. So.
One of my biggest negatives of McCagnon's draft, and again, later in the show we'll kind of talk about positives. The negatives from it outside of the quarterback is I didn't really like how old he drafted. I mean, Anthony Shepard, I like him as a prospect, but he's going to be 25 at the start of the year or something like that. I don't love that.
Age is just a number, man.
Yes, but when you're drafting a defensive lineman who's, raw and might need 1 or 2 years, by then he's going to be 27.
No. What? He's not really raw. I mean, he's probably going to come.
When you're coming from a D2 school, you're going to need a bit of a transition. I think probably Henry Anderson.
He dominated, though.
I know he dominated, and he did well.
I think they'll both start.
All right.
I think we'll talk about that in a second.
What about Leonard Williams?
Move into a 1 or 2 tech?
No, we're not moving Leonard Williams to 1 or 2 tech.
Why?
Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. Kyle, just for the love of God,
No, you're making bad takes.
How am I making bad takes? You're saying Leonard Williams should switch positions. I mean,
no,
possibly.
I'm saying Leonard Williams should go back to his natural position.
Leonard Williams is more of a 3 tech. Okay, Kyle. I guess I'll give. I mean, as far as a 3-4 defensive scheme, he's a defensive end. He's a 3-4 end, and that's what we drafted him to be. I'm not saying he can't play, 1 tech, 2 tech, or even 0, but he's a 3 tech. Anyways, back to the quarterbacks. And Kyle, I swear to God, please stop derailing the show. I mean, you can give your takes on Anthony Shepard and Leonard Williams in a second, but let's talk about the quarterback, because this is really the biggest thing we've had to talk about in the show ever, is the Jets having a franchise quarterback. Anyways, he's 20 years old, so he's very young, and the best window for the Jets to compete is going to be when he's on his rookie contract. So the Jets have 5 years here, for them to build a contender, because once he needs that first contract, then you're taking up a larger portion of your salary cap and devoting it to him. But right now, you can have the rookie quarterback or the young quarterback on a cheap deal and build around him. So I'm very excited about him. He's only played quarterback for 3 years. I mean, he was a linebacker for the majority of high school and then switched to quarterback. And that's where I think you see a lot of the mechanical issues. But when it comes to his mechanics, and Matt Waldman, who's a guy I've watched for these quarterbacks and stuff, he's referred to Darnold's mechanics as get-or-done mechanics, whereas it's not perfect. And you'll see a lot of the times when he throws, his feet will be parallel to the line of scrimmage, or he has that elongated wind-up motion, but he makes it work. So it's one thing if you have horrible mechanics and it's leading to very inaccurate throws, or you're just not being very efficient. But Sam Darnold has some funky mechanics. He might have his feet parallel to the line of scrimmage, but then he throws a 40-yard dart into triple coverage. So he's unpolished, but he's a natural, I guess, is how I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is he's barely been playing the position, and his mechanics aren't very clean, but he's still playing lights out. So yeah, you get him in an NFL system, you get him coached up, you work on some of his mechanics, and I don't think you need to change everything. I mean, there are guys in the NFL like Tony Romo and Phillip Rivers and whatnot who don't have perfect, picture perfect Peyton Manning mechanics, but they make it work. And I'll be honest, 2 years from now, no matter what you do, when it's 4th and 6 with 30 seconds to go, Darnold's going to revert back to some of his mechanics, and it's fine because it's worked for him. Now, does it occasionally lead to some things, specifically in the pocket when it comes to fumbles? Yes, but basically what I was saying is you can work on a lot of his issues and some of his footwork and stuff, but he's getting it done with the negatives, and that's a positive in itself. So he's a bit of an unpolished prospect, but he has so much potential. I mean, and you just go through and watch some of the throws he makes. It's unreal. I'm very excited about this pick. I think he will fit very well into Jeremy Bates' offense. And Kyle, that was kind of what I was going to ask you about, is how do you think the Jets will try to implement his strengths this upcoming season?
I think they're going to utilize the talent around him, and I think we're going to see a little less Robbie Anderson, and not because of suspension. I think it's more because I think Darnold's weakest part, and not that he really has a weak part in his game, because he's all around a fairly good quarterback, but his, I guess, weak spot, for lack of better words, would be deep accuracy, and I think, once again, that goes back to mechanics and how he sets his feet, and he tends to just overpower it and rely on his arm. So I think the Jets early, and I think Sam Darnold will win the starting job pretty easily in training camp, but I wouldn't be shocked if Josh McCown still gets 1 or 2 games in there just because of pure stupidity by the Jets, because we drafted a quarterback, which was the right move, and we traded up, which was the right move, and we signed Tremaine Johnson, which was the right move. So we have a wrong move around here somewhere. We're just waiting on it to happen. But anyway,
Great
I think
attitude to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's the correct attitude to have. It's the realistic one.
Back to back it up or anything. Wow.
I mean, that's kind of what we do here, Ben.
That's what you do here. Continue, Kyle. Just go.
Yeah, you got a point. You got a point. I mean, you interrupted me. I think we're going to work on the medium game. Work the middle of the field. Sam has wonderful athleticism. You can run a lot of packages with running backs coming out of the field off a check, coming out of the backfield, I should say, off a check, where he rolls out, and you can just easily pick apart with guys like Quincy Newon, Terrell Pryor, and, Neil Sterling, big guys in the middle of the field who have the ability to get open and create separation. I think that's where Sam's going to thrive early on in his career, and I think Jeremy Bates will definitely create packages for that, because he did for a young Jay Cutler for a while, which, Cutler was a much better deep passer than him, but he definitely utilized the middle of the field in Denver.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you touched on there is Sam Darnold's mobility. I think, is he very good when the pocket's clean and whatnot? Yes. I mean, most quarterbacks are going to be at their best. But the one thing that I really love that Sam Darnold has is he's sometimes at his best when things break down. When there's, a nickel corner coming off the edge that he doesn't see, and you just watch some of these plays that he has in college, and granted it's college, but he'll just with 1 or 2 motions just dodge a defender, get out of the pocket. And he had one play, it was a 4th and, or it wasn't even 4th down, it was 30 seconds to go. They were down 3 against Texas, and they were on the 40-yard line or whatnot. So big play. He takes a snap, and immediately they just didn't block. I think it was a corner or safety just coming right off the edge, and he just has some beautiful, just kind of, swim move, I guess is the only way I can describe it, and just shakes him immediately. And then, I mean, the pocket just immediately collapses on top of him, and he throws in an old Joe Namath jump pass, and literally just jumps over his offensive lineman and just throws a beautiful, accurate pass and gets the first down, and USC goes on to win that game. So he just has kind of, where people get the Tony Romo comparisons is where he does crazy stuff like that, where he's running back, you don't necessarily want to see this, but 15, 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and then he'll throw in a beautiful pass. And so I'm very excited with his potential. And even if he were to go in and produce like he did in college, that's still very, very good production. But the thing with Sam Darnold is you're getting a very good quarterback off the bat, so a very reasonably high floor, but a very, very high ceiling. If you're able to touch up some of his mechanical issues, I mentioned the fumbles, in the pocket, a bit of his throwing motion, the elongated kind of dip below the hip, throwing motion. I know, dip below the hip. There are some things you can touch up, namely turnovers and whatnot, and mechanics. But I mean, I'm very excited to watch him play this year. And talking about should they play him or sit him, it's really you just play the best quarterback, and I think that's what Tom Brady is going to do, and that's pretty much what they've said. I think there is something to sitting and learning, but I think you learn more by doing
on the field.
Well, that was what I was literally saying. I mean, look, I compare it to driving a car. I mean, yes, you're going to learn some things from watching somebody else drive a car. I mean, where's the parking brake and whatnot, and I guess how do you execute a turn is you need somebody to tell you, but you're going to learn the most how to drive when you're actually driving. So I think that Darnold, if he's ready, if he's the best quarterback in training camp and preseason, you play him. And he might have a few bad games. I mean, Joe Caporoso, I guess Boss Man, wrote a great article, and he just talked about, Jared Goff looked like a punter his rookie year. I mean, Carson Wentz had some pretty bad moments his rookie year. Just you go through some rookie quarterbacks, but they were able to learn. In year two, they went on to succeed. And the guys who had a red shirt, rookie year, who only played less than 5 games, all of them went on to have bad NFL careers. The only one that we're still waiting on is Patrick Mahomes because we haven't seen him yet. But, I mean, you go back to guys who played right out the gates. I mean, yes, do they make a few rookie mistakes and whatnot? I mean, that's why that's a term. But they come back even stronger. So I'm very excited to see Darnold. I think he's going to put up some numbers this year, and I think he will be the starting quarterback. As far as week 1 goes, it remains to be seen. We have to see him in training camp. But I have a strong feeling that they're going to open up with him. And I think the last thing before we'll move on to some different topics and get into some callers is, I think there's this stigma that Bowles is going to play the veteran quarterback because he's an old school head coach. People forget. I mean, he gave every opportunity for Christian Hackenberg to play. I mean, Josh McCown played maybe the first week, and Gino played maybe the first week of preseason, and then I feel like a sneeze is coming on, but then it just didn't. Never mind. But Josh, it's just the worst feeling because it's just lingering.
Well, that and the balls.
Okay. Just again, why was that necessary? But Josh McCown.
You should keep going now.
Oh my God. Free spot, open co-host.
Yep.
Just send me a DM. I'll replace Kyle in a second. But I mean, it's like Josh McCown played for 1 week in the summer, and then they just basically put him on the bench and let Christian Hackenberg and Bryce Petty play, and none of them were able to win the competition. So I think if Sam Darnold comes in, I think he's the most talented quarterback in the roster. That's not a really bold take, and I think he's going to play. Kyle, as far as the rest of the draft, what were some of your favorite picks and some of your least favorite picks outside of Darnold? I think I'm a big fan of Darnold, and I know you wanted Rosen, and I wanted Rosen too, but after watching a little bit more Darnold, I can understand what the direction the team is going. Darnold has the higher ceiling. Rosen might have the higher floor, but Darnold also has a high floor. So I'm a big fan of that pick, and I'd give it an A+ because look at the blue chip prospects that have just fallen to the Jets. I mean, first you have Leonard Williams in 2015, you have Jamal Adams in 2017, and now you're getting Sam Darnold, who was the consensus number 1 quarterback and number 1 pick for guys who do this, as a profession. So I'm very excited with the Jets getting him at 3. But outside of that, Kyle, the Jets had a few other picks. Which ones did you like and which ones didn't you like?
Probably my favorite not named Sam Darnold would be Chris Herndon, tight end from Miami. This is a guy who I really liked coming out of Miami. I think we talked about it a little bit when I think you mentioned Ian Thomas like a couple weeks ago. I don't know. I think that was you. Maybe it was DA. I don't know. I've been on a lot of podcasts recently, but he was a guy who kind of like. All right, I'm gonna let that one slide. I'm not gonna murder you tonight. He was a guy who kind of was hidden behind David Njoku, first-round pick, obviously a good, talented player, but he is an individual who never really got the opportunity, as I said, behind a better talent, but did a lot of the dirty work, as you will hear most people in the community say. You just watch his film, he's a good blocker, and he knows how to get open, and in the 40 receptions he had last year, he created a lot of space running those routes, and he's still kind of raw at it, but you see the potential, and I think that's why he fell, just because there wasn't enough real tape as a receiver for teams to fall in love with him. But, he tested fairly well at his pro day, and I believe he tested well at the combine too. I know he did well at his pro day. But this was just an athlete who does a lot of the dirty stuff good, and that's somebody you want on the team, especially when it looks like we're going to do tight end by committee. We have guys like Aaron Tomlinson, Neil Sterling, Jordan Leggett, Bucky Hodges, and he kind of got the mix of size, speed, athletic ability, blocker, and pass catcher in Chris Herndon. I think he is exactly what the Jets are kind of looking for, and he fell into the lap. I think Ian Thomas went a little earlier in that round, and I know there were a lot of people who wanted him, but personally I think Herndon was the better tight end on the board, and the Jets got lucky and got him, so I really like that.
Is there a pick you don't like?
Trenton Cannon, I guess, would have to be my least favorite of the picks, just because I don't think his production at the lower college level will match. I think a guy like Nathan, God, what's his last name? I just forgot his last name. Ben, help me.
The guy they picked in the third round?
Yeah.
Nathan Shepard.
There we go, Shepard. Nathan Shepard. I think his production from a small school level will translate because he absolutely dominated. And Trenton Canyon put up some solid numbers, and as far as the NCAA totals go, I think he was like 3rd in yards per carry and 15th in touchdowns. And he put up some decent stats, but I wouldn't say he dominated the game. The stats are a little misleading if you just watch the film. He's a shifty, small guy who might have a job as a returner if his hands can get down. But it's like really a one-trick pony for him. And in the NFL, you rarely see 80-yard touchdowns where a guy just breaks it off. It happens 2 or 3 times a season, and I don't think he's going to get enough reps to really give him enough opportunities for that. I wouldn't be shocked if he's cut at training camp. Hopefully we get the most out of this kid. But out of all picks, and I think it's because where we picked him, in the late 7th round, correct? Like the late 7th round when we traded back.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a practice squad. The reason he was the pick is just his measurables are off the chart. I mean, he would have tied for the fastest 40 time. Like at the combine, he would have killed, and then he's also a very good return man. So the Jets took a gamble in the 7th round pick. I'm fine with the Jets taking deep, going after some D2 lower prospects. I have no problem with that. I think as far as my least favorite thing, and this is kind of cheating because I did ask you least favorite pick, it would probably be not getting an outside linebacker. And that was really
I don't think the Jets value him, honestly. It's the only thing that makes sense.
And you're right, but I do think that's something that the Jets are going to add next offseason. Look, the offseason is not over. Theoretically, could the Jets swing a trade for Shane Ray or Shaq Barrett? Yes.
Dante Fowler. I mean, there are a lot of guys.
Yes, there are a few, but you're going to, again, have to give up some picks. But David Bass, Lorenzo Malden, Josh Martin, whoever they trot out there, assuming they don't make a trade, I guess they're fine. I think it's clear that the Jets think that the best way to get pressure is, in the trenches, or even using a combo of blitzes with, using the secondary or whatnot. But you're right, they don't really value it. They took a 24-year-old defensive lineman, D2 defensive lineman, Nathan Shepard, over a guy like Arden Key or Sam Hubbard. But yeah, I mean, which I question, and so that would be the one thing. But I think Nathan Shepard's going to be very good. But then it's like, okay, well, you added a guy like Henry Anderson for a 7th, so, as far as value goes, or positional needs, you could have theoretically drafted Arden Key, and then you would have still made the trade for Henry Anderson, and then your front 7 would have looked like Anderson, McClendon, Leonard Williams, Key, Lee, Williamson, and Jenkins. And would that have been better than what it's going to look like? Well, even if it's Sam Hubbard, who fell quite a bit. I just feel like that would be the least favorite thing. But, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe the Jets have a lot of faith in David Bass, Lorenzo Malden, or, as you said, they just don't really value the position that much. And, yeah, they still could swing a trade. But it's very clear that the Jets went, okay, we're getting a quarterback, and then we're just going best player available because you drafted 2 defensive linemen, and the Fatukasi pick was interesting. I liked him, and I think he's probably McClendon's successor if he develops. I mean, he fell a bit. So I liked really all of his picks, and I think they went best player available. And then with Cannon, you can argue that maybe they kind of looked for, who's a athletic kick return specialist that we can just kind of take a swing at, and we might hit it out of the park. But overall, I was very happy with this draft class. I think the last 2 draft classes have been very good, and I don't know what Maccagnan has changed. And again, we haven't really seen the fruits of both these last 2 draft classes because we saw Adams and May played pretty well. Outside of that, last year we haven't really seen much. I mean, Stewart had a pretty great catch against New England. Outside of that, he didn't really much. Hansen kind of developed a rollout as kind of a slot receiver, so he'll probably stick. Leggett was injured, Donahue drunk, and then I think was there anybody else? Who am I forgetting that they picked? Jeremy Clark, Derek Jones, a few of those guys. But they hit. Really, if you have 7
Derek
picks,
Jones, friend of the show.
Yes, we did have him on. But I mean, you have 7 picks and you hit on 3 of them, or even 4 if you're counting like role players or whatnot. That's a good draft. So I think they hit with Adams, May. I think they're getting a solid receiver in Hansen, and then we'll see on Leggett/Stewart. And then this year, I'm very happy, and we'll see how it pans out. I would have liked to add an outside linebacker, but again, if they're able to swing a trade for one, or they prove us all wrong, and a guy like David Bass really develops, or Lorenzo Malden comes back and can kind of play more like he played as a rookie. As far as pass rushing production comes, he wasn't ever really great against the run. Then you're looking at a bit of a. I can understand why the Jets did that. We'll go ahead and get to some callers. We got quite a few on the line, so we got to make sure we get through them all. We'll start with Michael Pallas, who is on the line first. So Michael, you are on the line. Welcome back to the show. Now you were yelling Sam Darnold's name from the rooftops for quite a while.
Dimitri Flowers.
Yes.
I forgot. We got lucky, though, because he was an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, you did want to draft Dimitri Flowers in like the 4th or 5th round or something, but we got him as an undrafted free agent. And we did get Sam Darnold. So you got 2. And I recall you saying Foley Fatukasi as well?
I did early on in the process. I did have Foley Fatukasi going in the 3rd round, and the Jets still had 2 second-round picks.
So,
but I dropped them off of my mock drafts as soon as the Jets traded their 2 second-round picks.
Well, technically, though, you kind of hit on 3 of the picks. So we'll start with the big one, Sam Darnold. Michael, just your thoughts on the Jets bringing in Sam the Man.
Well, they got the best quarterback in the draft. In my opinion, anyway. Obviously, you guys think Josh Rosen is better, or will end up being better.
I don't want to waffle on my take as much. I agree. I've been very impressed watching Darnold, and I think here's what I'll say is I think both are going to be very good quarterbacks. I'll say this: I think both will be Pro Bowl quarterbacks.
Cop out.
No, I'm not. I preferred Rosen because I thought he was the most pro-ready prospect. But Kyle, to be fair, I was more talking about versus Mayfield, and I still probably would have taken Rosen over Darnold at the time of the draft. But now that I've watched a lot more Darnold, I'm very intrigued with what he's going to bring to the table, and I'm very excited. But I still think Rosen is an excellent quarterback, and I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler. And after watching more of Darnold, I think he'll be a Pro Bowler. And then Mayfield, I think, will be a good quarterback. I worry about him in Cleveland, and I think that might have been – I think the Browns should have taken Darnold. I think he probably fits more with what they should have done. I think he'll still be a solid quarterback. I was just, it was such an assumption that Darnold was going to go 1, Barkley was probably going to go 2, and then it was going to be Rosen versus Mayfield, and I was always on Team Rosen. I believe Kyle was also the same way, but then when Darnold falls, it's a different conversation. I still probably would have leaned Rosen, but I'm very, very excited with this Darnold pick. They didn't pick Allen, which I'm ecstatic about. Mayfield.
Yes.
Look, it's a good time to be a Jets fan. They finally got their franchise quarterback.
I'm gonna be honest. I had to do Jets and Giants grades for NFL Spin Zone that night,
And when the Jets took Sam Darnold, it took me a half an hour to compose myself to write both articles.
So you were that excited?
That's how excited I was that the Jets got Sam Darnold.
So, I mean, look, I think many Jets fans felt the same way. I think, Kyle, you said you were a bit upset they didn't take Rosen.
Yeah, because Rosen was the best quarterback on the board, and we didn't take him.
I think
it depends on one major factor that I have a problem with, that I moved Josh Rosen to number 2 on my board, and that's the injuries.
And that's a fair concern. And I think that's the big concern with Rosen. If Rosen had no injury concerns, it'd be hard not to take him. I mean, he is such a sound technician, and Darnold's kind of the opposite. Darnold is not a very sound technician. He's unpolished, but he's getting it done, and he's playing well, and he's making insane throws. But his footwork's out of whack, and his mechanic. Whereas Rosen is very, picturesque, in his mechanics and whatnot. But Rosen has the injuries. He has a bit of the off-field concerns, kind of the entitled attitude that some people are worried about in an NFL locker room. Is this 21-year-old going to be able to lead, guys who are 30-plus and have been in the league for a decade? That's a question. But
he's not going to be 21 until November, actually.
Really? No, I was speaking of Rosen's 20 right now.
No,
I'm Darnold. Darnold is 20.
Yeah. Darnold turns 21 in June, and then Rosen is 21, and he turns 22 whenever. But no, I think it's one of those times, and I compared it to 2004. I think again you're looking at a Ben Roethlisberger versus, we'll throw out Eli Manning, even though I know Kyle doesn't like Eli Manning as much. But as far as the success
he's going to go to jail. He's going to jail.
Is it more Eli versus Phillip Rivers?
Okay, fine.
Phillip
Take
Rivers
the two best quarterbacks in that class is basically my point. Or Jim Kelly versus Dan Marino.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like as far as where they were drafted.
No,
Eli and Phillip Rivers went 1-2 that year.
Yeah, no. I mean Kelly versus Marino. As far as production, I think you're not really going to complain about who you got. I'm excited with Darnold. I'm very happy about it. Now, Michael, moving on. The rest of the draft. How did you feel about it?
From Thursday all the way through Sunday, when they picked up free agents, they got 3 week 1 starters, including Sam Darnold.
So Darnold, I'm assuming Flowers. Then who's the other one?
Fatukasi.
Do you think Fatukasi's going to start over McClellan, or they're going to play more?
I thought you just said Vlad Duque. I was like, damn.
No. They're going to start him at 3 technique. Because
Really?
he can play. Because Fatukasi can play end or nose.
But why would they start him over the 3rd round pick and Shepard or even Henry Anderson?
Because Shepard is still raw and he won't be ready.
Oh, I disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fatukasi translates more as a 0 or a 1 in the NFL. I don't really see him. I mean, I think he can play.
He's a little bit small. I mean, he's strong enough to handle the centers, but he's only 315. And normally,
only 315.
Normally nose tackles are in the 330 range. So
yeah,
but he can handle the nose. But he's going to start opposite Leonard Williams, and it's going to be Williams, McClendon, and Fatukasi.
I think it's going to be Anderson to open up the year. I think really if Anderson's healthy, I think he was such a great defensive end for the Colts before he got hurt. I mean, his rookie year, Colts fans were hyping him up so much, and whenever the Jets acquire a player from another team, the first thing I like to do is, how do the fans of that other team feel about it? Because, if a team's traded for, Lorenzo Malden, then Jets fans are like, all right. But if they traded for, throw out any sort of fan favorite that's kind of under the radar or whatnot, and we're all losing our minds, that's, you kind of got a good player, a player that you should look out for. A lot of Colts fans are upset that the Jets got Henry Anderson for only a 7th. A lot of Colts fans see him as a starting defensive end. It was really just a scheme thing, and that's the reason the Colts traded him, because he's a 3-4 defensive end.
The Colts are just getting rid of good defensive linemen this year for no reason.
Hankins they're trying to fit their scheme, which, you can debate the success of trying to fit players into your scheme rather than fitting your scheme around your players, but whatever. I think Anderson is going to come in and start, and then if he gets hurt, which he's struggled with in the past 3 years, then I think you're looking at Shepard. But I'm very excited. I think the Jets, D-line depth was a bit of a concern, but now you look at, you got Leo, you got Anderson, you got Fatukasi, you got McClendon, you got Shepard, Coleman, Pennell, Deion Simon, if you want to throw him in there. There's a lot of good moving pieces here, so I'm excited with how they address the defensive line position, and I think you really just bolster the depth. And I think what Todd Bowles loves to do is just to keep fresh bodies in there as a rotation. I think Leonard Williams is really kind of the only constant mainstay, and then I guess Steve McClendon on first and second down. But besides that, I think they can kind of move them around, and I think maybe on third downs you might see more of Fatukasi at nose tackle or whatnot. But you're going to see a lot of moving pieces, and that's something I'm really excited about. Michael, what was something that you weren't too pumped about?
At first, I'll be honest with you. At first, I wasn't too keen on them. The third-round pick, the guy from
Nathan Shepard,
Nathan Shepard at first. And then I warmed up a little bit when I read about him because I didn't know anything about him. So I think he's a little bit raw, but he'll be fine by the end of the year. And I am not as upset as most people about them not drafting an edge rusher because they got their edge rusher in 2016.
And who's that?
They're going to move somebody.
So you're saying they're going to move Lee to outside linebacker?
Yes, they are. That's my prediction.
And are you saying they're staying in a 3-4, or are they still going?
Nope, no, they're going to move Malden inside. They're going to switch Malden and Lee.
Ooh, I don't
no for me.
I can
That's
kind
a
of
no for me, dog.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to entertain that one.
Michael, I think there's one. If the Jets switch to a 4-3, then Darren Lee really slides in outside pretty nicely. That's kind of his perfect spot. Would be a 4-3, weak outside linebacker. That sounds great. Malden is just not a middle linebacker. And that's just not his position at all. And then if you're staying as a 3-4, Lee is just kind of too small to play outside linebacker in a 3-4. So I disagree with you on that. I could see, look, the Jets are drafting kind of a surplus of defensive linemen. They're not drafting many linebackers. Could they make a switch? Or, I don't think Todd Bowles really would make a switch. He just plays more of a 4-3. They've always kind of played a hybrid. I think if you're looking at their 4-3 defense, then you're going to see more of Lee on the outside, Williamson as the Mike, Jenkins maybe might have his hand in the dirt or stand up. I think those are some things that the Jets could look at to try to get some different looks at pressure, but I don't think I see Malden sliding in at all. Malden's really only chance to survive in this league is going to be as a third down, pass rusher, just a pass rushing specialist. And if he can kind of develop to what the Jets had with Aaron Maven in 2011, who was, who had 6 sacks or something like that, who was pretty much the best Jets edge rusher that we've had in the past decade, if you're not counting Calvin Pace for, a fluke season or two. If he can just kind of develop like that, then I think you're looking at a win.
You don't just get away with Calvin Pace slander under my watch, sir. You need to apologize for that.
Oh, and by the way, one more thing before you let me go. You're going to have to change your intro after week one.
No. I recited it perfectly. I'm talking about the touchdown pass.
Yeah,
I recited it perfectly, so we're not changing it. That's
no. What do you mean you recited it perfectly, Kyle?
Like
I'm talking about the audio.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Sounds exactly like Bob Wischusen. Really killed it.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to have to change it to because it's going to be a Darnold to Pryor pass.
I don't know about Pryor, but yes, I think if Darnold throws a last-second touchdown...
Wait. No, Pryor's probably going to be our best receiver this year.
Yes, well, it depends on whether or not Anderson gets suspended for 4 games, or how many games he gets suspended.
Anderson will be gone for anywhere between
2 games
and 4
at the
games.
most.
Probably 2 games.
But week 1, first touchdown, Sam Darnold to Terrell Pryor.
I'm going.
I'm gonna say, who do we play week 1?
Lions, Monday Night Football.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. I'm gonna say Sam Darnold to Darius Slay.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, I did shout to the rooftops.
Did it hear you?
I did shout to the rooftops one hot take, and I mentioned it several times on Twitter this week. The Jets won the AFC East this year by drafting Sam Darnold.
Really?
Yes. That is my
opinion. Thanks for joining us.
I agree that I think the Jets have put themselves in a position to win it in future years, I think 2019 is the year you're looking at the Jets really competing. I think the Jets had a 3-step process to rebuild their team. They blew it up last year. They got the quarterback this year, and next year they're going to surround that quarterback. I think 2019 you're looking at the year where the Jets can make a playoff run. This year it would be a surprise. I kind of compared it to 2009 is this year, so they might make a run. Who knows? But I think you're looking more at the 7-9 to 9-7 ballpark, and that's for that's a positive take for a lot of fans. Then I think next year you're looking at they could take it to the next step.
Well, the way I look at it is Darnold is better than both Geno Smith and Mark Sanchez as rookies.
Yeah.
Right now, the rookie quarterback comparison, Darnold is head and shoulders above both of them.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree with that as well.
And when they drafted Mark Sanchez, they went from missing the playoffs to making the playoffs. And then when they drafted Geno Smith, they went from 6-10 to 8-8. So why can't the Jets win 4 or 5 more games this year with Mark Sanchez?
And Michael, they very well might, but to overthrow New England as the AFC East champions, you're gonna have to win 12 or 13. And I don't know if I see I mean, yes, and if the Patriots have a pretty steep decline, but they've been fairly consistent at achieving 12 to 14 games every year. And I agree with Michael that I think the arrow is pointing up, and I think the Jets will have a chance to win that AFC East within the next 2 or 3 years, but I don't think this next year is the year.
Jets and Patriots finished tied. Jets win the tiebreaker because they beat them both times.
That's a bold take. Well, Michael...
Hey, aren't you the guy who wants to get Robbie Anderson cut for smoking weed? And now you're just like
Not
all on...
Robbie didn't smoke
It had
weed.
nothing to do with the weed. It had to do with the supposed threats he made to the cops about the cops' family.
Are they really threats? Are we calling those threats now?
Okay, all right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Really quickly, shout out your Twitter.
At MPalaceNFL.
All right, thanks, man.
Yep.
It's like hosting a show with a 12-year-old. Jesus.
I mean, you're not too far off.
I'm 18 now, officially.
Oh, by the way.
Isn't it your birthday? Yeah, you turned 17, right? A few days ago, right? Happy birthday to you and to myself, I guess.
I was going to sing happy birthday to myself, but now it's just weird.
Well, don't sing happy birthday to yourself. But yeah, no, I'm officially 18.
Happy birthday to... Okay.
I was about to drop you. Okay, let's go to our next caller. I believe it's Tyler. Tyler, how's it going, man?
Hey guys, what's up?
Not much. I guess I shouldn't say not
you
much.
You can tell we're very excited.
A lot. We're very excited about the franchise quarterback. Yeah, Tyler, what are your thoughts on Sam Darnold?
Before the draft, I started booing Josh Allen because no one likes him except for Buffalo.
Ben, the best tweet of all time for you was this was like a perfect tweet, or I forget exactly what you quote tweeted. You were like, "Buffalo's trash," and I just laughed so hard.
Really? Buffalo's just the most simple tweet I've ever had.
Yeah.
Tyler, what were you saying?
It was accurate.
Anyway, I was happy when we got Darnold because Cleveland was Cleveland. They took Mayfield. And Giants took Saquon Barkley, and I was like, oh, geez, I hope they don't take Allen. And I was hoping Rosen, so I was like, okay, well, it is what it is, and we took Darnold.
Are you happy with the pick?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, how do you feel about the rest of the draft?
The rest of the draft, we didn't get a pass rusher, which really grinded my gears. And then
we have a soundbite for that.
Throwback.
I
gotta find it. Hold on. No, I'm not gonna find that.
Yeah,
that's gone.
No. And we didn't really take an O-line. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, and this is kind of the question I was going to ask you, and we'll start with Kyle, I guess. But do you feel like the Jets kind of addressed the O-line position enough? I mean, you get your rookie quarterback. The number one thing, and it's the pitfall that Indianapolis fell into, is they didn't really keep him upright or protect him. Kyle, do you think the Jets gave Sam Darnold enough of an O-line his rookie year? Or, I mean, you could even broaden that question to the weapons they've given him his first year.
Yeah, I think he has plenty of weapons. He has 3 number one quality low-level receivers and 5 high-level 2 receivers. You can work with that. We've worked with less in the past. I don't think the O-line is as bad as people believe. Kelvin Benjamin had a good year. Brandon Shell had a good year. Brian Winters played with an injury. Wesley Johnson was trash and has been replaced. James Carpenter didn't have a great year, but also was quite the victim of Wesley Johnson's terrible play. I think overall, talent-wise, they're just better this year. They're healthier, and I think there will be better chemistry and just better production. So I don't care about what people say about the O-line. I think it will be better. I think it was highly scrutinized last year for not a lot of great reasons, seeing as we kept Josh McCown upright for most of the season. So that's an accomplishment. I think we have enough.
I think so too.
Okay.
I mean, we got 17 receivers. Why not?
Yeah, I think those are enough to throw to. Just put 17 guys on the field, see what happens.
Yeah, Tyler. Last question for you, man. Your predictions on the running back position for the Jets this upcoming season. I think the Jets were able to add 2 more running backs this offseason or this past weekend. I mean, Dimitri Flowers is more of a fullback, but we'll count him as part of the running back group. I mean, you're looking at first you have Bilal Powell, Elijah McGuire, Trenton Cannon, who they just got, Isaiah Crowell, Thomas Rawls, and then in the fullback position you have a bit of a competition between Dimitri Flowers and why can I not remember his name? Lawrence Thomas.
Lawrence Thomas.
Yeah, so who do you think ends up winning those battles, and how many running backs are they carrying? Who wins the fullback battle? Who's getting cut and whatnot?
Give me the names of the running backs again.
So there's Elijah McGuire, there's Isaiah Crowell, there's Bilal Powell, there's Trenton Cannon, and there's Thomas Rawls.
So we got 5 running backs.
Yeah, so you say we're going to keep all 5, or we're going to cut 1 or cut 2 or whatnot?
I would say probably cut 2.
Which 2?
Let's see, we got Powell, McGuire. That rookie, what's his name? I forget.
Trenton Cannon.
Crowell, Rawls. I think we're going to end up... Oh, this is tough. I think we're going to end up trading Powell.
Okay. To who? For what? Or do you
for what?
Yeah, do you have an idea of you think what we can get for him?
Probably a 3rd-round pick.
Oh. That could have been useful.
Could be useful.
Really, a 3rd for Powell?
Ben, just shut up.
I don't know.
But yeah, I think if the Jets
3rd or 4th, maybe
Powell, it's going to be a conditional 6th or 7th or something like that. And who do you think wins the fullback competition?
I don't know yet. It's too early to tell, man. I don't know.
All right, well, Tyler, thank you so much for calling in, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, that was Tyler calling in the show. Kyle, what's your take on the running back stable?
I think we're going to keep Powell, McGuire, and Crowell. I think Powell will be number 1, Crowell will be the change of pace guy, and McGuire will just be sub-packages as a receiver and blocker. He's a guy who can kind of do everything as a running back, as we all know. And then from there, I think if they really play well, Thomas Rawls is a guy who could definitely find a role on the roster somewhere, some sort of job, maybe special teams, because he has had trouble staying healthy as a full-time running back, but he was a starter for a playoff caliber team for 2 years, right? And then, injuries really set in for him. So I think it's really going to depend on who performs well in training camp, and that sounds like a cop-out and it kind of is, I'm not going to lie. But right now I would say we keep 3, Powell, Crowell, and McGuire. We put Trenton Cannon on the practice squad. We let Thomas Rawls go, and maybe Lawrence Thomas as our fullback. I don't know if Dimitri Flowers does a lot of really good things right. So it would be a straight-up competition, and I think Thomas will win just because of familiarity with the team. And obviously they like him because they've kept him around for a while now, even given him other opportunities to change positions. Obviously, he went from practice squad to getting cut to getting re-signed as a linebacker, defensive end, and now we have him at fullback. So obviously somebody in that organization likes his character, likes his work ethic, and hell, he's made quite the transition over a year. So obviously the kid deserves the opportunity to go out and keep his starting job. So I'll be interested to see that battle in training camp.
All right, we're going to go to our next call. This is Matt on the line. Matt, thank you for joining us.
And he's dead.
Oh, he's there.
Oh, he's alive.
There's 2.
Okay.
My apologies. There's 2
Yeah,
Matts. Well, thank you for joining us, Matt. We'll get it off the bat, and not to rhyme, but let's talk about Sam Darnold.
Nope,
how do you feel about the pick?
I'm more happy that we didn't choose Josh Allen than we are that we got Sam Darnold.
Okay, good.
I was
we're
sweating
on
a little
that
bit. Yeah. I was sweating a little bit with the 3rd overall pick, but I'm happy with Sam Darnold. Like you guys, liked Rosen for a while, but his attitude's a little too much for me.
Attitude? Or you said Rosen, right, regarding attitude?
Yeah. Well, it's not even attitude. It comes down to, the narrative make Mayfield having a horrible attitude, but Rosen gets away with it. I don't know.
See, I don't know if it's just because I kind of have the same attitude, but I loved Rosen's attitude. Like I said, I don't know if you were here for that part of the show, but I said the same thing. 19's made a mistake, and then he came out and said it, and they put a couple nails through him. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, media, making no narrative and everything.
Yeah, if he wants to play the villain card, right now he's got the ace of spades for it. So it's fallen into his lap there. I think he's in a good situation in Arizona, though, where he'll eventually be the starter after half the season or so. Matt, overall, I want to get your thoughts on the draft, specifically the later rounds, because, obviously the meat and potatoes are the quarterback. What are your thoughts on the later rounds, and what was your favorite pick, least favorite pick?
What it comes down to, I think you guys would hate me for saying this shit. I just didn't like the draft. I love Sam Darnold. I'm happy we got a quarterback. But what it comes down to is players were falling hard that I liked, like Dren Key and Hurst, and even Landry fell to the 2nd round, and we did nothing about it. We just let it sit there, and that pisses me off. And I get the best player available works half the time, but the other half the time makes no sense to me.
What I'll say about Landry is there's a couple guys. I know you were probably just using them as examples, and there are probably other guys we could have drafted, but regarding Landry, very concerning injury. According to most NFL doctors, there's a reason he fell to the 2nd round, and I think it's a minor miracle he was picked in the top 3 rounds based on everything I was told from guys around the league who just completely dropped him out of their top 50 because of injuries. He's got I believe primarily, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a neck injury, right?
Oh, okay. I thought it was a foot injury he was playing with.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure, but I do know that is why he fell. It was the injury concerns.
Right.
Okay, leg injury for sure and neck injury. Got him in the Georgia Tech games. So there's a couple of things to be aware of there for him, and that's the reason he fell. Obviously, he's a good talent, but that's the guy, you might want to stay away from if you're going to spend that. And it's not like we really had capital to give away to get back into the 2nd round where he was.
Yeah. I get that.
Regarding Arden Key, I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I don't really trust him as a player. If you want to take another Muhammad Wilkerson, except he's not going to put up the same production, you go ahead with that. You can go ahead and do that. He's proven that he no longer wants to play football. We've shown that he was a number 1 pick worthy type of guy to a 3rd round pick type of guy because of 1, his effort, 2, his off the field antics, and 3, poor production. So, I'm fine passing on those guys. I completely understand there are other prospects that, maybe we could have taken. Maybe we went best player available in certain rounds, and there are other needs who are maybe of equal value in some people's eyes. But I think McCagnon, for the most part, did a good job there.
Yeah, I got a lot of flack on the subreddit for completely I disagree with best player available.
People are going to hate either way. I mean, it's your opinion.
No, you're right. Absolutely. Especially with being Jets fans. But
yeah,
it comes down to, like, we have so many needs on this team, and that's how I feel this. We have so many needs on this team. And reaching for a player here and there when he fits our scheme and fits our role that we need for a rookie quarterback, it's okay to reach a little bit. And when we, draft 2 defensive linemen, we've been doing that for the last 10 years, it really grinds my gears.
Yeah. Wow. 2
Man,
times.
that's the second time.
Wow.
Damn
Second time. Matt, I agree with you. And I think there are some things that annoyed me about this draft. I mean, obviously the age of some of the guys they picked, and then, not addressing the edge rusher position. I think they probably could have, instead of taking Shepard, taken, a guy like Sam Hubbard or, Arden Key, as we talked about.
Ooh.
But I'm not going to
I just got a good idea. When he gets a sack, we got to say Shepherd's pie.
All right. Well, okay. I guess we have a solid T-shirt idea.
He's got the meat and potatoes. It's Shepherd's pie. Let's go. God, I'm good at what I do.
Yeah, so terrific, Kyle. Anyways, but I just feel like Matt, I share some of the same concerns. I'm very excited with Darnold, and I do think that Shepard is going to be a good player. I worry about his age, and there are some things that I wish they could have addressed. I think they could probably use some more depth on the O-line. I think, your starting 5 right now is okay. I think that is the definition of just, a pretty solid left tackle, just kind of a, 16th to 20th best in the league. Just kind of just an average left tackle, and you don't need an amazing, line to win.
Especially in our division with the pass rushers.
Yeah. Exactly, especially, taking away Sue. Your guards have played pretty well in the past. Last year was a little rough. Hopefully the transition to more of a zone blocking will help. But Winters and Carpenter, if they play well, your offensive line is elevated quite a bit. I think, Long, I would have preferred to have seen a guy like Jensen maybe, but, and they have the cap to do it. But Long, I'm not going to complain about. When healthy, he's a solid center. And then your right tackle, Shell, has just been increasingly, getting better and better, and he's also been so you're looking at just a very solid offensive line. But then again, I talked about some of the injuries. Carper, Winters, and Long all have them. And then even Beecham, I guess, if you go back to 2 years ago. So they all have injury issues. And then, okay, who's behind them? You have Ben Ajalana, you have Dakota Dozier, you have Travis Swanson, Jonathan Harrison, Brent Quall. There are some, I think Swanson as a depth guy is pretty good. He's a starter last year. I liked Harrison a lot towards the end of last year. But then outside of that, and I think Ajalana can be a solid just backup tackle. But then it's like, are we really confident that, week 14, you're playing, I don't even know who they're playing at that time, but, playoffs are getting on the line, and you're going to throw Dakota Dozier in there at starting left guard. I think they could have used one of their, 5th or 6th rounders on an offensive line.
I think the biggest problem is Mac, year in, year out, just does not bring attention to O-line. He drafted, only one O-lineman with Brandon Shell, and 2 years ago, right tackle. Other than that, I don't think he's ever drafted an O-line member, which really pisses me off. You see teams that build a team on O-line. I'm sorry?
Also Jonathan Harrison. That's another
Jarvis
guy.
Harrison.
Jarvis.
He drafted Harrison? Okay.
No, he drafted Jarvis Harrison.
Jarvis Harrison. Right. Jonathan Harrison.
Signed Jonathan a little later.
Okay, I got you. But you see teams build a team around the O-line. The Raiders did it. The Cowboys did it, and they have such good success with it. And they're all young. The Cowboys have the youngest O-line in the league and one of the best, which is terrific. And it pisses me off when we keep drafting defense for 10 years straight and hope something changes. It makes no sense to me. And I get why we go D-line. It's important. And our blitz packages with Bowles and going up the middle with gap. When we have running backs like Corral and Powell, they can't really take a lot of hits. They're supposed to go through guards. They can't block for shit. How's that supposed to work?
Yeah. No,
and on top of that, I guess the Wesley Johnson excuse has been going around for a while. It's Wesley Johnson. He was horrible. He's horrible. He's horrible. That's why our line sucked. But, dude, our pressure outside the middle was horrible. Shell was getting passed up. Beecham was getting passed up.
Yeah, there were definitely times last year where they just looked slow and dilapidated. I agree that I think the offensive line needs some work. But as I said, I think next offseason is the offseason you're going to see and I said it earlier, you blew up the team, you got the quarterback. Next offseason you're going to build around him. I agree. Sorry, you go ahead.
I think the biggest problem is when you saw Petty and Hackenberg taking snaps on the center, they had no awareness because they're not used to the NFL. McCown can read blitz packages. He can read the defense just fine and call for it. When you throw Sam Darnold in there, he's not going to be able to read these blitz packages. He's going to get blindsided. And so when you have McCown he can hold his own. He's been playing in the league for 15 years. He can do just fine. But when you have a rookie quarterback in there, it's going to be a completely different ballgame. Hackenberg had a lot of problems reading the blitz.
Yeah,
he's also a horrible quarterback.
You're right, but I will say Darnold is much better at avoiding pass rush than Hackenberg. I mean, I understand, but I'm saying you're right. Darnold is it's one of those things, and we talked about it. I mean, do the Jets play Darnold week 1? I mean, we've just said play the best quarterback. But if Darnold goes out there week 1, you're right. I mean, he's going to have it. He won't be able to ID the Mike linebacker or whatever, change the blitz packages or whatever. But I think one of his strengths is his ability to avoid pass rush and move, step up in the pocket. And he's I think there are some traits that I'll put it this way. I think Rosen, I said, was the most pro-ready quarterback, but I'm way more confident in Darnold, in his pocket presence, in that, I mean, he can play really well when he doesn't have a clean pocket, and he can take some hits. So, I mean, it's not a huge worry for me, but you're right. If I had to go, okay, what are my biggest worries about this team right now? And you said, I mean, do you think they have a lot of holes? I mean, I don't agree a lot. I mean, I think your secondary is looking pretty nice. I think your safeties you're not going to get much better than 2 young, exciting safeties. I think your corners, I think Trumaine Johnson, Morris Claiborne's a hell of a duo. If, I think Screen back in the slot's going to help, he'll probably be picked on. But if a guy like Nickerson, who we got in the 6th, who translates to a very solid nickel corner, if he's able to play well, then maybe you have the final part of your secondary. But, Screen is a mediocre slot corner, but he'll be fine. So your secondary is looking good.
Yeah, the secondary is the best part of the team by far.
Yeah, and I think middle linebackers, excited about Williamson, and I think Williamson and Lee complement each other. There are things that Lee does that are very that he does very well, and there are things he needs to work on. Specifically, his coverage he needs to work on, and that's a big if. But they did bring in guys like Kevin Minter and Kevin Pierre-Louis and Neville Hewitt, and so do I think this team is perfect? No, but I don't think there are that many holes outside of. Okay, you don't have much offensive line depth. I mean, ignoring the fact that your offensive line is just pretty okay. But outside of your 5 basic okay starters, you don't have much below them. So O-line depth and edge rusher. And that's pretty much, for me, the 2 things that I'd be kind of bothered about with this team. But besides that, I mean, look, I think Sam Darnold has enough weapons at this time. And I'm not saying – for where my bar was, I guess, for this offseason, for the cap space and the picks they had, what they were able to do. I like Nunless coming back, obviously. Anderson will come back off of suspension. I'm very excited about that duo. Curse is a very reliable slot receiver. I like the addition of Pryor, just kind of a, low-risk, high-reward move. Maybe guys like Stewart and Hanson. So there are places all around the team that, maybe I'm looking through green-tinted glasses, but I'm optimistic about certain parts of this team. I agree with you, though. Offensive line and putting a rookie quarterback under it is very worrisome. And then, how many times are we going to see again where Tom Brady takes a snap and he's able to sit in the pocket for 5, 6, 7 seconds because the Jets can't get pressure on him? If Leonard Williams is double-teamed and none of these other guys are able to step up, that's a worry. But if a guy like Henry Anderson, who they got from the Colts, and I was going to just ask you that, a guy like Henry Anderson, if he's able to play like he was in Indianapolis before his injuries, then you're looking at a guy who can take off pressure. If Shepard is able to translate to the NFL and play kind of more like he did in the Senior Bowl, then there are places on the D-line that I'm confident in. But yeah, edge rusher, offensive line, I'm upset that Mac didn't address. But as I said to Kyle, there is still a chance that 1 or 2 things happen, or I guess 1 or 3 things happen. Most likely is that the Jets will trot out David Bass, a mix of David Bass, Lorenzo Mald, and Josh Martin. You're going to probably get maybe combined 8 sacks at most out of all of them.
I have a quick question before you go on.
Oh, okay. No, I understand. I'll let you.
Yeah, I was curious. You guys always talk about Josh Martin, Malden, but you never mentioned Jordan Jenkins. There's been flashes of him that have been playing excellent, and obviously there's been flashes.
Because we always think
we always assume that he's a starter.
Yeah, Jenkins is the starter at the other. Jenkins is kind of locked down at just the.
I would say because he sits the edge well and he passes rusher pretty fucking well. He really does. He had AFC, Player of the Week or whatever it's called for pass rush. He looked pretty good.
Oh, I think Jenkins is. We're more talking about who's going to start opposite him. I think Jenkins is one of those guys who does all the dirty. I don't think Jenkins will ever develop into a amazing edge rusher, but I think he's a very, very solid player that's going to play here for 5 to 10 years. And I think he's going to do the dirty work. He's going to be great against the run. He'll get his, he might have one random 10-sack season, but he'll have, his 5 to 7 sacks a year, and he's going to be a very good player, and he'll be well loved by the fans. Calvin Pace type player. On the other side, the Jets don't have that high upside pass rusher. Right. So what I was saying is,
David Bass, Josh.
I got bad news, guys.
Kyle, what?
An arrest warrant has been issued for Robbie Anderson because he failed to appear in court today.
This motherfucker is so fucking dumb. I hate. Oh my god, we got a good receiver and he fucks it up.
He didn't appear in court?
No, he didn't appear to his court hearing.
How stupid do you have to be?
Yeah, I'm looking right at it right now. That's amazing to me.
Oh, I'm pissed. I'm pissed. Can I write on this? I feel like this is...
Look all the replies. Look all these guests replying to this.
Robbie, I hope you're listening, buddy. I hope you have your Apple Music in a jail cell when you're hearing this. What are you doing? You went from nothing to getting to a good college and then dropping out of college because of your work ethic and dumb mistakes, and then getting another opportunity, then going back to school, not getting drafted because of your dumb mistakes. You get a chance in the NFL. You prove yourself to be a good receiver. You make a dumb mistake. You get another opportunity. You make another dumb mistake. You get another opportunity. We forgive. We don't forget. You're starting to forget what's important. Your role on the team. You're being selfish.
I just have to assume that,
What's his trade value right now? Third?
None.
No, there's
nothing.
Very
no,
for a guy
he doesn't have value.
He might be sitting in a jail cell at the start of the season. I mean, I don't know.
Jail cell for the start of the season, Kyle.
NFL players don't go to jail.
He's not rich by any means.
I agree with you, but NFL players don't go to jail.
Florida courts are pretty rough. I don't know if you're from Florida or anything, but they're pretty rough.
Anyways,
I'm sure they are.
I don't really remember what we're talking about. Oh yeah, edge rushers. Basically, and we'll talk about Anderson in a bit, but basically it's just either you're going to have for this year you're going to have Malden, Bass, Martin kind of trio. Then option number 2 is kind of piggybacking off of option number A, is you're going to sign your big guy next season. I mean, there's a lot of premier edge rushers in free agency, and you're going to have a lot of cap, and you're going to have more picks you don't have to worry about getting your franchise quarterback anymore. So with their first pick, they can go take an outside linebacker. That's where you're most likely. The what?
The pass rush class next year, the D-line's amazing. I mean, the first overall probably pass.
That might have been why the Jets didn't burn a pick on Arden Key or something like that this year, because they know, hey, we can go fix our D-line, we can go after Nathan Shepard or whatever, and then next year we can go get our pass rusher. The other option is maybe they swing a trade for a guy out of Denver, especially since they just drafted Bradley Chubb. You can go try to get Shan Ray or Shaq Barrett or something like that. But I think you're looking at the first option, which was kind of just A and B combined, where you're going to see Bass, Malden, and Martin just kind of get us through this year. Not going to be amazing, but they'll be patchwork okay. It won't really determine the success of the team. And then 2019, you're going to have that premier linebacker that you can kind of have get after the quarterback. Matt, last question for you before we have to let you go. Your thoughts on I know you weren't a huge fan of the draft outside of Darnold, but what were your thoughts on the trade for Henry Anderson?
No, that made a lot of sense. I heard you say that if you see the reaction of other fans and they're upset, you did a good trade, which happened. What's the subreddit? Everybody's so upset. It made a lot of sense. Third-round pick. I think he was competing with Leo for sacks in this rookie season. He was doing really well until he got injured. But I like it. I mean, who cares? 7th-round pick. We're not going to draft a good player anyway, so I'm happy with it.
That's the attitude. Yeah. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
We're going to talk anyway.
How often do you hit on the 7th-round pick?
I mean,
Lachlan Edwards.
Hey, yeah, Lachlan Edwards.
Yeah, he's a punter. Yeah, I mean.
Outside of punters and kickers, there's maybe 1 or 2 every year.
Right.
So,
yeah,
we'll see.
That.
But Matt, thank you so much for joining us, man. Really quickly, shout out your Twitter if you have one.
I don't, so.
Oh, well, dang. Well, you're. Hey, bro, get on the Twitter, man. Well, you're missing out on some of the best.
I was looking at Jet stuff on Twitter. I came across you guys' podcast and I retweeted it. That's why he's joined here.
Oh, well, thank you so much for calling in, man. Hopefully we hear from you again in the future. Anyways, yeah, I guess no Twitter, but Matt, thank you for calling in, man, and we hope to hear from you soon in the future.
Awesome. Thanks.
Zero. And that was Matt. All right, Kyle, really quickly, we have a few more callers to get to. Let's just talk about the Anderson thing. Yeah, I don't really know what exactly happened. I find it hard to believe that
I'm trying to confirm this right now through the very intensive Florida warrant search system. So we'll see if this is
No, I mean, obviously, what do you...
Is Robbie his real name, or is it like Robert on his birth certificate?
Okay,
we know this.
It's obviously a real thing. What do you do? What do you, Sherlock?
Actually, I think the tweet was deleted. So.
I don't know. Anyways, it's one of those things where I don't think it's just... He has a bright future, but it sucks to see him kind of try to ruin it. I don't think this is... I'm not as concerned as I was at the last time, because it's not like he did anything that was... he didn't do another illegal thing. It was he didn't show up to court for the illegal thing he did, which is bad, but it's also... we don't know what legal advice he's getting, or the accuracy of the report, or if there's even going to be... Maybe this was intentional. Maybe it was intentional. You just don't really...
You don't intentionally don't go to court, Ben.
I'm saying, but you don't know the legal specifics of what exactly he was... I mean, we don't know. I find it hard to believe that he just forgot, or what this implies is that, that he's like, I don't care, I'm going to go to jail. I find it hard to believe that Robbie Anderson, who's surrounded by a Jets organization that certainly knows when his court date is and stuff, I find it hard to believe that this wasn't intentional or whatnot. We don't necessarily know what happened. We'll wait for the report, but I don't necessarily think this is one of those things where it's going to be a huge deal. It just points to Robbie Anderson just not really just having his head in the right place. But we'll go to the next caller. This is Ryan, and then we'll close out with Scott. Ryan, how you doing, man?
Ben, Kyle, how you doing, guys? It's been a while.
It's been a while. The Jets have picked up a franchise quarterback since.
That's how you know I have to call back in. That's when we got our quarterback.
I think last time you called in, Josh McCown was their starting quarterback, and now it looks like it might be Sam Darnold. Speaking of the starting quarterback, who do you think is going to be Week 1?
I do think it'll be McCown, but obviously I'm rooting for Darnold. But knowing Todd Bowles and this team, I think McCown starts off the season.
Yeah, and Ryan, I mean, obviously we've talked a lot about Sam Darnold. We're very excited about him. We talked about his strengths. We talked about his weaknesses. But looking away from Darnold, we can go back and talk about him. I know that's probably why you called in, so we can talk about him in a bit. But I wanted to touch some other areas of the Jets roster. Looking at the cornerback position, I think there's going to be a bit of a competition there at the back end of the depth chart at that position. Who do you think is kind of closing this depth chart out? Because, I mean, obviously you're going to start with Tremaine Johnson, Morris Claiborne, Buster Skrine, and Perry Nickerson are probably all. I guess Perry Nickerson isn't a lock to make the team, so I'll wipe him off. But I guess you're looking at Tremaine Johnson, Morris Claiborne, and Buster Skrine is pretty much locks to make the team. Outside of that, though, I mean, you have a lot of other. I mean, we have Nickerson, as I mentioned. You have Darryl Roberts. You have Justin Burris. You have Rashard Robinson. You have Derek Jones, Jeremy Clark, Xavier Coleman. Any other guys that could add an undrafted free agency? How do you really see the back end of this cornerback depth chart playing out? You mean you already have 3 locks, and then you probably have 3, maybe 4 if you want to stretch it, spots left on the team. Who do you think is going to make up those positions?
Yeah, well, I think they'll only keep 6. Obviously, like you said, Tremaine Johnson, Claiborne, Skrine. I think Nickerson's a lock. I think he'll take over for Skrine next year. Hopefully he takes over for him sometime during the season, whether that's mid-season or toward the end of the season. I think that was, an excellent value pick in the draft, probably, one of the better players outside of Darnold we picked up in the draft class. After that, it's probably anyone's guess. I'd say Roberts makes the team. I think he played pretty well, and he's like a decent number, 4 or 5 corner if you need a few snaps from him a game. After that, I'm really not sure. I'd probably go maybe Clark or Jones, kind of go the wild card route. I think Burris, I think he just sucks, honestly. He can't tackle. I don't want him on the roster for sure. Rashard Robinson, we give him training camp, see what happens, but I think he's off the team too. So I think it'll come down to either Derek Jones or Jeremy Clark for that last spot.
Yeah, we traded
a 5th-round pick for him.
Well,
so I mean, Bowles obviously liked him, and I think they probably liked him coming out, and that's why they traded a pick for him. I think, I think Robinson. So currently, the way I have it, and I agree that I think they're going to carry 6. I mean, I have Claiborne, Tremaine Johnson, Buster Skrine, Perry Nickerson, and then I have Roberts as well. I think he provides that kind of depth, and I do have Robinson making it, which would be a bit of a surprise. I mean, I think you're looking at, are guys like Derek Jones and Jeremy Clark going to get every chance? And yes. But, I mean, the Jets invested a higher pick technically in Rashard Robinson because Clark was a 6th and Jones was a 7th, I believe. I think I like Robinson as a prospect. If he shows anything in preseason, he wasn't really given much of a chance this past season. If he shows anything in preseason, I think Bulls will give it to him. Now, Ryan, on the other side, for the receiver position, how do you see the back end of that playing out? Because right there you have a few locks. You have Enunwa. Well, I guess I don't even know if we can consider Anderson a lock anymore. But for all intents and purposes, we'll consider Anderson a lock. Let's say he gets a 4-game suspension. I don't know. So you have Enunwa, but we're gonna count him as part of the 53 for now. Enunwa, Anderson, Curse, Pryor are probably your locks. Then who's filling out the last 2, maybe 3 of that position?
Well, if you would ask me before the draft, I probably would have considered Roberts a lock, but since we picked up that kid Cannon in the 6th, I think Roberts will make the team now as a return. I think Cannon will get that edge. So I think we'll go 6th at receiver 2, but depending on what happens with Robbie Anderson, which, it's terrible, and this is annoying now for the team. But I'd go Anderson, Enunwa, Curse, Pryor as your main 4. And then after that, I'd probably give it to Hanson and Stewart. Just because of their draft status, I just don't see somebody else, making it over. Someone like Devin Smith. I think he'll be gone. It just doesn't work out. I think they'll keep Stewart and Hanson for this year.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kyle. What was your take in the receiver position?
I'm going to be missing a large piece now, it seems, for a good portion of the season. But I think overall
it's a huge loss.
Yeah, I think overall it's one of the better receiving corps in the NFL. Quincy Enunwa coming back from injury, I think he'll be good. Jermaine Curse will put up better numbers than he did last year. And Terrell Pryor, I think, when healthy, is a number 1 receiver on 20 out of the 32 teams in the NFL, something around there. So I think we still have weapons. Obviously, Robbie was the best of them all, and that's a huge loss for us. But I think the receivers are fine. And you still got to remember we have guys like Ardarius Stewart and Chad Hansen, who most people are kind of casting off. And I think they're one of the more talented individuals on the team. And I don't think they'll be cut. I think they'll make the roster. So I think we're fine.
All right, and Ryan, last kind of version of these questions. We'll go to the tight end position. How do you see this all playing out? Because the Jets obviously added a lot of guys at this position. Starting off, you drafted Chris Herndon. You have Eric Tomlinson and Jordan Leggett returning from last season, as well as Neil Sterling. You brought in Clive Walford, and then you also added Bucky Hodges. Where do you see the Jets going with this position? Probably carry 2 or 3. Who do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, I think they'll carry 3 here. Tight end's an interesting position, usually at least for the Jets. I'm glad they added, a lot of bodies, and we have to hope that at least one of them or 2 of them pan out. Me personally, I probably wouldn't have let Jenkins walk. I didn't think it was that big of an issue, money-wise. But since we let him walk, I'd probably go. Obviously, Herndon is going to be a lock. He's our 4th-round draft pick. I go Tomlinson as a lock just because I think he's the best blocker out of them all. And for the 3rd spot, I'd probably go Leggett. I think Walford, Sterling will get cut. And who's the other guy?
Bucky Hodges.
Yeah, I think he'll be cut. I'll be cut too. I like maybe they keep 4, keep Clive Walford. Keep the Miami connection there. But I think it's going to be 3. I think it'll be Herndon, Leggett, and Tomlinson.
Yeah, I'm really excited about. I agree. I think Tomlinson's going to make it just purely based on his blocking ability, and Herndon actually is a surprisingly very good blocker as well. I'm really excited to just see the Jets have 2 young, huge, athletic tight ends in Leggett and Herndon. If Leggett showed some stuff during training camp last season, but then he got hurt. Herndon we haven't seen at all. But if those 2 are able to just develop into anything, if the Jets are able to, for the first time really forever, run a 2 tight end set or anything like that, to just have 2 big body tight ends, that's going to be huge for Sam Darnold or for whoever's under center. The tight end position is one I'm really excited about. I think the Jets kind of did a patchwork job of you didn't go after a Jimmy Graham or something like that, or even bring back the guy you had in Austin Jenkins, but you brought in a lot of young guys, and you're going to let it compete. But yeah, if Leggett and Herndon are able to develop into 2, strong athletic tight ends who can block and receive, I'm going to be absolutely ecstatic. Even if they're not putting up huge numbers, just to have that option. I think Herndon's the better blocker. Leggett is probably the better receiver. But I'm just really excited about this position. last question for you, Ryan. How do you really see Sam Darnold fitting into Jeremy Bates' scheme? I mean, do you think the Jets did enough to, we were talking about the weapons around him, but do you think the Jets added enough weapons to surround him with? And then how do you think the Jets are going to try to build the scheme around him? And what type of concepts do you think they'll try to utilize to show off Sam Darnold's strengths?
Yeah, I like the whole Darnold thing. First of all, I was actually kind of shocked he made it to 3. For weeks leading up to the draft, all I heard was Darnold's going, number 1, and if he wasn't going 1, then the Giants would pounce on him. So, and then obviously the draft day came, and then in the morning, Schefter kind of hinted that Mayfield's going to go 1, but then you still thought, Darnold was going to go 2 to the Giants. But then, here comes, 8:30, and the Jets landed Darnold. So I do think he'll be a good fit in Bates' offense. I hope we run, obviously, if you watch Darnold's tape, he's really good on rollouts and kind of, making plays on the run. So you definitely want to incorporate that. I do like the weapons we have for him here. I hope the offensive line holds up. I do think it'll be better than last year, but I know you guys mentioned it earlier. If anyone gets hurt on the offensive line, then it becomes very, very shaky, to say the least. I do think Darnold will struggle a little bit, just like any rookie quarterback. I think this year is, just you need to see some flashes this year, and I think you will. I think Darnold will be the future. And then next year is the year where, teams like the Eagles did it, the Rams did it, where you kind of build the talent around him. Next offseason, we'll be getting offensive lineman, hopefully, or edge rusher in the first round. And also we have $100 million in free agency to spend to surround him with weapons.
All right, well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited about Darnold. I think I don't know if Kyle's fallen asleep or something, but I'm very excited about.
I'm just pissed about Robbie.
Kyle's sitting inside. Well, as our good friend Daniel Mosher pointed out, I don't know if this is much of an indictment on him as it is his legal team. I mean, that's kind of my point is we don't really know.
Mosher with the brag of the century saying that he's going to law school, by the way. Just want to throw that out there.
It's a small flex or something. But
yeah,
that was kind of my point is I want to wait for the specifics to come out on this because this is either Robbie's legal team messing this up or it's him just blatantly ignoring it. I want to wait. I don't think it's I find it hard to believe that Robbie would intentionally just basically throw away his NFL career like that. But at least it's... Oh, okay. Anyways, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, man. It was an absolute pleasure to hear from you, and hopefully we hear from you again. The Jets finally have a franchise quarterback, so hopefully we see... you've always been here through the bearded Fitzpatrick days and stuff, but hopefully we see a few more fans come out of the woodworks in support of the JTF, and hopefully, Ryan, you call into the show in the future again.
Yeah, of course, guys, I will. As soon as finals will be over in about a week, so I'll be calling in all summer. Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, congrats, man. Really quickly, shout out your social media.
Did you just
say? All right, you guys can follow me at NY_JetsNation98, I think.
Sweet. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, that was Ryan. We'll go to our
Why'd
last
you say
call.
congrats?
He's going to be done with his finals.
Congratulating getting done with finals now?
Yeah. I mean, that's... I would say congrats to you if you said, I'm done with my finals. I'd be like, congrats. Okay, whatever, Kyle. Kyle doesn't know how to show basic human emotion.
No, you're being extra as hell.
You just cut out there, so I don't even know what you said. All right, Scott, you're on the line.
You're being extra as hell, to put. Yeah. Scott, you don't even get a big introduction anymore. It's Scott from the Jet Podcast. Still hasn't changed his Twitter name. He's mad at me for not uploading an episode. He doesn't care anything that certain people do, and we're probably going to get Twitter beef when we bring up ping pong tables. So there's Scott's introduction.
Well, what was I heard the ping pong stuff. What was the stuff before that? What did I do? Something about uploads. What am I? I'm not mad. Yeah, when did I say I was mad at you?
I don't know. It sounds like Ben Blessington's saying fake news.
No, I didn't say I was mad at you. I think that you should have uploaded it because I think plenty of people would have wanted to listen to our great content that we gave them on draft night, but I wouldn't say I'm mad at you.
All right, well, Scott, we're just going to move on because Kyle is just, I don't even know. Kyle was on last week, and Kyle is just off today. I think we're both off. I'm sick today, and Kyle is just derailing the show every opportunity he gets.
Are you sick, or are you just sick of Kyle?
Both. I would say both.
He hasn't talked to me in like a week, so.
Wow.
I should read our text messages from this week. It's absolutely amazing. Scott.
You know what? Off the air, I do want to hear these out off the air.
All right, I will send you a screenshot. She's just so kind and warm.
I can only imagine.
I think it's sucked my dick multiple times. So.
Yeah.
I have a feeling the word hoe was probably used, but yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Scott, let's hop into it. Sam Darnold, Jets pick. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, the funny thing is, Ben, I feel like a lot of people are, at least initially, now I think people are on board, but I think a lot of people are disappointed initially because they never spent any time really looking at Darnold because there was no thought that he was going to be available. It seemed like he was a lock to go number one. So people just zeroed in on Rosen, Mayfield, and Allen, and we all discounted Allen for obvious reasons. And so it then just became, are you team Mayfield or are you team Rosen? And what it seemed to come down to is most people either like Mayfield better or Rosen better, but they liked both, and it was kind of anybody but Allen. But everybody just didn't even look at Darnold. And so when Darnold was on the board, it was a shocker. And when we were doing the broadcast live, Kyle, you remember, it was you, me, and Greg Armstrong when the pick was made. And I was the one that was really happy, and you guys weren't. You were kind of lukewarm on it, and I don't know if you still are, Kyle, but essentially what I think it is that, for me, the reason why Darnold was QB1 for so many general managers, because Charlie Casserly pulled 24 of them, and I believe it was something like 17 or 18 of them came back and said that Darnold was their QB1, is that he can do things that the other guys just can't do. There are certain types of throws. He has certain physical gifts. The best way that Dan Orlovsky described it is that he's able to make accurate throws when his feet aren't perfect, which I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's an incredibly difficult thing to do, and very few quarterbacks can do that.
So that was kind of what we opened our show with was, people talk about, well, his mechanics are horrible. It's one thing if your mechanics are terrible and you're making bad throws and you're throwing horrible passes, but it's like he does little things, and you mentioned his feet. Like, you'll watch him and you'll see his feet parallel to the line of scrimmage. You'll see the ball dip below his hip when he throws it. You'll see him running away, and you'll see some jump passes and whatnot. But he just hits it on the dime. I mean, yes, he makes a few mistakes and whatnot, and he needs to clean up the fumbles in the pocket, but those are all fixable things. I mean, Rich Cimini came out with the factoid that two other quarterbacks that struggled a lot with fumbles in college, Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan. But as far as the mechanics go, it's like, and I don't know if you've ever heard, he's a good friend of Mark Schofield's, but Matt Waldman just called his mechanics, Sam Darnold's mechanics, get-her-done mechanics. They're not beautiful. Rosen's were picturesque. Picturesque, beautiful mechanics, and I think that's why a lot of us, including myself, really liked him and touted him the most pro-ready. Darnold is just such a natural at it that he can be, running away and, running 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage and jumping, and throwing it across hash, and it'll be a beautiful throw. It's like he's already good with those things. Imagine if you're able to fix him a little bit and just get him into, He has, and I said this at the beginning of the show, is Rosen has the highest floor, but Darnold has a higher ceiling, and then what separates Darnold from a guy like Allen, who has a very high ceiling, is Darnold also has a very high floor. If Darnold doesn't fix any of his mechanical issues, he's going to be, a 10 to 15 best ranked quarterback. He's going to be a solid quarterback. If he's able to fix some of the things he does, including the fumbles, including the turnovers, including some of the mechanical things, I mean, he can be top 5. I mean, he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, he reminds me a lot of so much of Andrew Luck when I watch him, and I don't want to throw that comparison out because I think that just sets the bar so high for him. But when I see him, I see Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck struggled with turnovers at times at Stanford and whatnot.
And his rookie year with the Colts, too. He turned it over quite a bit that year.
Yeah, and his rookie year with the Colts. But it's just – and I think there are going to be some growing pains for Darnold, but I'm just so excited, and I think they got the pick right. Yeah. And as I said, I think Rosen's going to be a great quarterback as well. I said I think both of them are going to be Pro Bowl quarterbacks. And I'm not going to shy away from that take. I think Rosen's in a perfect scenario in Arizona. I'm very happy he didn't land in the AFC, or specifically the AFC East. You got Darnold. I'm very excited. I mean, you look around the AFC East, you have 42-year-old Tom Brady. You have Josh Allen, and you have
and A.J. McCarron. Don't forget A.J. McCarron.
Sorry, A.J. McCarron / Josh Allen. And then you have mediocre Ryan Tannehill. The Jets are set up right now, with the arrow pointing up, their best setup to take over Tom Brady and the Patriots. Next offseason is the offseason they're going to build around Darnold. They're going to build the team, and they're going to make a run. And I'm very excited about the way it's looking. And I think that next season's also going to be the year where you see Darnold really take the next step. Scott, if you can't tell, I'm just very excited. And I think you're right. I didn't watch as much of Darnold as I did on guys like Rosen and Mayfield because it was he's going to go 1, and if he doesn't go 1, he'll probably go 2. He's just not going to be at the board, but he was. I've now watched pretty much every snap and every throw he's made during his college career, and I love the guy. I think, yes, are there things that he needs to work on? Yes, but I love him. He's an absolute natural. There are as you said, there are things he can do that other quarterbacks just cannot. And he really he doesn't have any glaring weaknesses or anything. It's just there are some little things he's got to fix, and if he fixes those things, I think you're looking at a top 5 quarterback in this league, and that's not an overstatement.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and it's funny. I was talking to Joe Blute about this, and Joe Malsa and I think were the only two at TOJ who had Darnold as our number 1 QB, although I love Mayfield, and I would have loved him as well. So I was talking to Joe Blute about this a couple of weeks ago. I saw him, and we actually, him, and I think there's a picture on Twitter or something, but him, and Kyle Smith went bowling, and it was a giant disaster. Joe Blute and I are not good at bowling. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
and we were talking.
In my camera roll. I love.
Yeah, there you go. Fahey knows. So anyway, essentially what we were talking about was the quarterbacks, because that's what we do. We're football nerds, so no matter what we do, the conversation steers to football. And Kyle was a little lower on Darnold than Joe and I were, and Joe was high on him. And he said he had watched a decent amount of his film, and there were certain throws he was talking about. And this is something that, I'm not saying that they're going to be the same, because I think Darnold could be better and all that. But if you watch Jameis Winston at Florida State, the way that he was able to make advanced reads and anticipation throws at the age of 19 and 20, to me, that's what made him the guy that if I was drafting. Now, granted, he had all the off-the-field stuff, but my joke was if I had to draft him and then hire 4 guys whose entire job was to follow Jameis Winston around 24 hours a day and make sure that he's not an idiot off the field, it would be worth it, because finding a guy that could make the kind of throws that Winston can make at that young age is so difficult. Well, now you have Darnold, who's similar in that regard. He makes some of these just filthy anticipation throws, getting, basically leading receivers and being able to know exactly where they're going to be and like you said, the thing is with the footwork, you want to clean that up, obviously. There are minor mechanical issues that really need to be fixed. And Mark Schofield actually identified some times where his mechanics led him into trouble a little bit in 2017, his lower body mechanics. But, man, he just finds ways to get the ball where the ball needs to be. And his biggest weakness is probably his own bravado, which, to be fair, is the biggest weakness of a lot of the best quarterbacks in the league. It's just that he has so much confidence in his own ability to make the perfect throw that he gets a little too aggressive sometimes. One thing that Joe Blewett was saying, and I don't know if you guys talked about this yet, and Joe's going to come on. We're going to do a special edition of Play Like a Jet, and he's going to break down the 2017 film. And I think I've twisted Kyle Smith's arm into coming on to talk about the 2016 film. But essentially what we're going to end up seeing when we look at the film is that most of the interceptions, now granted, there were some where you look at it and go, what was that? But a lot of them where he was making the right read, he just got too aggressive, because it was going to be a throw where he could make it, but it was going to have to be the absolute perfect throw. And he trusted himself to make that throw. And sometimes you have to see that and go, yes, it's the right read, and yes, I can make this throw, but it's going to be a really sticky situation, and sometimes you take the easier way out. But, Ben, Kyle, I think that we can both say, having watched some of the more game managery type quarterbacks like Alex Smith only get you so far, you'd rather have a guy that has that kind of confidence and gets burned from time to time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Forget Jude. Yeah, Jude'll miss. He'll block me on Twitter for that one. But yeah, you'd rather have a guy that's willing to do that, to take those risks. What did you say? Something about Alex Smith? Is that what it was?
No, I said that he was a 40-year-old loser who does nothing but harass beat writers and play like fake flag football in a New York City soccer field.
To be fair, I think he's only about 35, so I can't confirm the rest of it for you. But
I call him Peanut Head Tillman.
Okay.
Scott, good Lord.
To jump in here, I agree with you, and I think you talked about a lot about like the bravado, and I guess he doesn't have the bravado off the field that some of these other quarterbacks have.
No.
I understand what you're saying. On the field, and you're right, that's a bit of a negative, but it's also a positive, and that trait reminds me a lot of a guy like Brett Favre. Where Brett Favre is going to throw an interception or two. I mean, look at his last throw in that NFC Championship in 2009, where he's running, to the right and throws it across his body and throws the interception, which isn't a great example to throw up. But there are times where he would do that and he would throw a touchdown or whatnot. And Scott, what I was trying to say is, I mean, the things that Darnold has though is he's a super high processor. The way he's just able to process the defenses and his reads and which guy he should throw to. I mean, his presence in the pocket. I mean, he's just able to get away from guys. He's clutch. I mean, I don't know if you've watched that Texas game, especially late, and the throw that I pointed out was that
Ben, you're bringing up a sore point. Believe me, I'm a Texas fan. I've watched that game.
But with 30 seconds to go, I mean, I think it was a corner or safety just came right off the edge. He got shed the tackle immediately, which is a move that he's able to use quite frequently, and he does it at so well. He gets away from him. The pocket collapses. He just jumps and just throws a beautiful touch pass. I mean, they're just little things he does like that. The biggest thing, though, is his off-the-field demeanor. You don't have to worry about getting a call late at night that Sam Darnold got in trouble at a club. He's not going to give you a quote. He's not. I mean, I love what he brings off the field, and then on the field, I think
not 21 yet, so we don't know about that.
I guess that's a good point. But I mean, but as far as his demeanor goes, he doesn't have necessarily the entitlement that Rosen gave off, or the I mean, we can call it, I guess, bravado off the field that Mayfield had. Not that was a big issue for you guys, or the racism that Josh Allen had. But Sam Darnold had.
But Ben, did you see my tweet? Did you see my tweet like of draft day, like comparing Josh Allen and Buffalo?
Yeah.
Yes,
I loved that. I think that was one of your best tweets. Josh Allen going to Buffalo gave both of us some of our best tweets. But my point is, I mean, he has so many of these little things. It's like, can he touch us on the mechanics? If he does that, he's going to look good. And even if he doesn't, he's still going to be a good quarterback for the Jets. I'm very excited about the things he does. I think he's going to be special, and I think you're looking at, I'm saying Andrew Luck. If Andrew Luck can stay healthy, like a healthy Andrew Luck, I think that's what Sam Darnold is going to bring the Jets. His prototypical size, great off the field. He has the arm, the accuracy, the processing speed. I mean, there's some mechanical things, and the fumbles and stuff are concerning, but he just brings everything. Clear cut number one. I mean, I had Rosen, but I think we had talked about how they're just so close together. I had, Rosen, Darnold, Mayfield are just so close together that we said if we get one of them, we'll be happy. And I've compared this class to the 2004 class, not necessarily in the guys. I don't think Eli Manning is necessarily Josh Rosen or whatever, but I think you're looking at getting 2 or 3 really good quarterbacks out of this class.
Right.
But I'm really happy with who the Jets got. I think the Jets are going to get getting a Pro Bowl quarterback and a face of the franchise and a guy they haven't had in really 40 to 50 years.
And Ben, really to your point, there's another class that was a little bit closer to this one that might fit. And you mentioned Andrew Luck. The class that he was in, and this is the one that our friend Jim Coburn compared it to, was 2012, at least from an analytics standpoint. And if you remember the 2012 draft, it was Andrew Luck, it was RG3, it was Ryan Tannehill, I mean, Brandon Weeden, I think, also. But you also got Kirk Cousins and Russell.
How did Brandon Weeden get a first round? I mean, he was like 29, right?
Yeah, I think he went 24th or something. He was like 29 years old.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. You know, what it is, Ben, is sometimes I feel like hype gets surrounded around some of these guys. Well, I mean, we saw it with Josh Allen, although obviously Josh Allen had much more physical gifts than Weeden. But, I still to this day, there have been so many quarterbacks where I watched Jake Locker play at Washington, and for the life of me, I had you know what it is? Sometimes it's these guys, they have a reputation coming out of high school. Like Blaine Gabbert's an example of a guy who, and Locker too, they were in the same draft. They were very highly touted prospects coming out of high school and coming into college. And Christian Hackenberger was a similar deal. And so I guess people just didn't want to change their evaluation. They're just like, oh, these guys are going to be great coming out of high school, and they just never adjusted their thinking. And in reverse, it kind of happened. We saw it with Kirk Cousins, right, where it was just, well, Kirk Cousins will probably be a backup in the NFL. And then when he became a really, really good starting quarterback, there was still a contingent of people that were trying to come up with every excuse under the sun to say that Cousins wasn't that good, or it was a fluke, or it was everybody else is doing, or whatever it is. So I think that probably played a part with Whedon. But if you look at that 2012 class, Ben, it's interesting because even with RG3 getting hurt and being gone, even with Whedon being a bust, even with Tannehill kind of being mediocre, you still have 3 Pro Bowl level quarterbacks that came out of there and 2 All-Pros, really, because Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson, when they're healthy, are All-Pro level, and Cousins is a Pro Bowl level guy. So if those 3 guys, in any shape or form turn into Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, and Andrew Luck, minus the injuries, it's a pretty good class if you think about it. I mean, obviously there are guys like Kyle Lauletta or somebody like that, or if Allen pans out, and we all end up wrong, there's that possibility. But yeah, if those 3 guys turn out to be like Cousins, Wilson, and Luck, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think this is another one of those quarterback classes. And I feel like every year there are people, I'm not in love with this quarterback class. Like literally every year. And I think, but
of course,
you get, 2012 was a very good quarterback class. 2013 was god-awful. 2014 had 2 really good ones, and then nobody else really after that. 2015 had, I'm trying to remember what 2015 had. 2015
was Winston and Mariota.
Jameis Winston and Mariota.
Yeah, but thank you, Kyle, for saying that after Scott did. But wasn't that 2014? That was like it was 2015. That's 20. So who was 2014? Who's 24? Why can't I remember 2014?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that now too. Because 2013 was Geno Smith and EJ Manuel. Who was 2014?
I'm willing to guarantee it wasn't that memorable then. 2014. So the Jets would have been picking what? The Jets were 16 or something.
Blake Bortles.
Or it was Bortles, Manziel, Bridgewater, and Carr. That's who it was. Those 4 guys.
Yeah, that was not a great. But once every 5 years or so, there's a very good quarterback class, and this is that. I love this class, and I think I can see why a lot of NFL teams, after watching more of Darnold, I can just understand it. I mean, I think the other thing that he brings is he's just so good on the run and in the pocket, and just able to move around and sense pressure, get away from it, throw absolute
incredible pocket feel.
Yeah, and then able to throw absolute dimes on the run. I mean, there are just so many things that he does. And really his negatives come down to, can you touch up the mechanics? Can you cut down on the fumbles? I guess I'll say 2 things. Mechanics and turnovers. And that's really it.
Can he dial back the aggressiveness a little bit?
Yeah, but that's one of those things where as a rookie, I don't know if I'd tell him to dial it back as much, because one of the things I like about him is, and you're right, it's going to get him into trouble. He's going to have a game where he throws 3 or 4 interceptions. But let's say he is on his own 40-yard line and he looks at the end zone, he throws a bomb and it's intercepted. The next drive, he's going to try that exact same throw. And that's a con when he's throwing interception. But, I like that he's just so stoic and he has a quick memory. Or short-term memory. Like, he forgets the interception, he's going to throw the same. He just trusts himself so much. And, yes, does it hurt him sometimes? Does he throw some dumb interceptions? Yes. And is that something you can start to work on? Yes. But as a rookie, I don't know if I tell him to really I kind of almost tell him to trust him, because you look in that Rose Bowl game in 2016, that really put him on the map. I mean, some of
that was unbelievable.
Yeah, even when you look at and there's the throw against Arizona State that Joe Blue had tweeted out, and there's quite a few of them actually, where you look at it from the QB vision and you're like, how is there a receiver open there? But then way he throws it right in between 3 guys or whatever, back of the end zone, high, low, whatever, and it's like, oh, there, he's open. And so, and then occasionally he'll throw the same throw, and then a defensive back's able to catch himself and get up there and get an interception or knock the ball away, and you're like, what was he throwing there? But so I don't know if I'd tame that as much. It's more just, can you touch up on the mechanics and keep working the turnovers? And the thing I said earlier, and then I'm going to ask you a few more questions, and we'll wrap up the show. But the mechanics are concerning to an extent where, he's getting in some trouble, but it's not hurting him too much. There are guys like Philip Rivers and Tony Romo who have unconventional mechanics that get them done.
Sure. And if you go back a little further than that, Bernie Kosar, I know that's a little bit before your time.
No, yeah, Browns quarterback. But I'm just saying, as far as, 2 years away from now, let's say the Jets touch up his mechanics quite a bit, but 2 years from now, fourth quarter, 30 seconds to go, he's under pressure, he gets away from a guy, he's running, backpedaling or whatever, he's going to kind of revert his this is just what he's known. So, and I'm fine with it. So I'm really just, can he clean up the mechanics to an extent, work on your footwork, put yourself in the best position to succeed. You're already succeeding, but, raise your level of success, get down on the turnovers. I'm absolutely stoked about this pick. I don't see how really anybody could really hate on it. Scott, a few more questions. Your thoughts on the rest of the draft? I mean, we spent so much time on Darnold, but outside of Darnold, thoughts on the rest of the draft? Favorite picks, least favorite picks, overall analysis.
Man, I'll tell you, I was so happy about Darnold. I think Drew from Jersey, our buddy on Twitter, said it best, something along the lines of, here's my thoughts on the Jets draft class. They got Darnold, and I don't care. So that's almost how I was so happy about Darnold, I almost didn't care about the rest of the draft. But I will say, look, I think it's funny when we give draft grades because obviously you're not going to know for sure for a couple of years. But I was kind of – there were some picks I really liked and some picks I was kind of like, eh. Nathan Shepard's an interesting one. Here's a guy – I had Daryl Slater on for a special draft recap on Sunday, your old friend who's a friend of your podcast as well. And we were talking about all these guys, and he was saying, here's a guy that was like basically a Canadian lumberjack a couple of years ago, and now here he is getting picked in the third round of the NFL draft. But the thing you like about him is he's kind of got that similar story to Damon Harrison where he's a little bit older, but he's got really good upside athletically. When you pick an older prospect, you want it to be a guy who has athletic upside because, look, I like Dylan Donahue and his motor, and I thought in the fifth round, whatever, but Dylan Donahue was, not his general motor as long as he stays out of the Lincoln Tunnel. But I think
we just made like 3 car jokes tied in one, and I don't think any of us meant to do any of it. We're amazing.
I know. Sometimes you just walk into those, and they work out for you. But Dylan Donahue, right? But Dylan Donahue was a guy that didn't have plus athleticism, so he was an older guy that you were kind of taking, and he was already what he was, and you weren't sure if maybe Dylan Donahue, best case scenario, is like a 4 to 5 sack guy or something like that. With Shepard, he's got a lot of plus athleticism, so he's a guy that could potentially turn into something. Snacks wasn't drafted, and he also went to a small school, and they're different styles of players. I think Shepard is more along the lines of the Muhammad Wilkerson role is what they would be looking for him to play at some point, and by that I don't mean taking a nap during meetings. But if he can keep his head on straight and really kind of continue forward, look, the average career for a defensive tackle isn't that long anyway. So if they get, one full contract out of him, that's pretty good, especially for a third-round pick. And then after that, it got a little interesting. Cannon was the guy they picked in the 6th round, the last pick in the 6th round. If he makes the team, his primary role would probably be kick returner. It's interesting because I don't think this is the case, but Daryl Slater thinks that there's a chance Eli McGuire doesn't make the squad, and if that's the case, it would be because Cannon beat him out, I guess. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. I think a lot of people like the cornerback that they picked, who I'm drawing Nickerson, Perry Nickerson. Yep, Perry Nickerson, who Dalvin Osorio joked is the illegitimate son of Hardy Nickerson, the former Tampa Bay Bucs linebacker. By the way, he's actually not, but I thought it was funny. Anyway, he looks like he could be an interesting candidate to eventually replace Buster Skrine. Now, I've said many times, I know our friend Kyle Smith has said, that Buster Skrine can tackle and blitz, but he's a terrible cover guy in the slot and on the boundary. And it's nice that he can tackle and blitz, but I want my corners to be able to cover guys. And so maybe Nickerson becomes that long-term answer at the nickel position, which, look, if you're going back 15, 20 years, that's not super important. But you guys know this very well. This is a passing league. And so there are a ton of 3 receiver sets. There are a lot of tight ends that need to be covered. So the nickel is a very important spot now. And so if he can turn into a good one, it could be interesting. And maybe he takes that spot at some point, either during this season or even next year. He'll compete with the other guys that they picked last year, Clark and Jones, I'm sure, for spots. And then it's kind of a weird thing. They have like 1 million defensive backs now. Some of these guys are obviously going to have to go. And I'm trying to remember who else. Herndon. I like Herndon. He has some upside. He's already a pretty solid blocker. He's got receiving skills, but he's going to have to kind of get a little more polish in that area. But I think in the 4th round, he's a guy that could be pretty good. I really like Mark Andrews, the tight end from Oklahoma, but once he was gone, I was totally on board with picking Herndon. And those are the guys that really stuck out to me. There's some interesting undrafted free agents. And Ben, your pal Michael Nania was on draft season. And by the way, I just want everybody to know, Michael Nania equals ratings because we've already had the highest downloaded episode of draft season yet.
Sorry, Kyle's fired.
There it is. Kyle's fired for Michael Nania. He's all about the numbers. But yeah, he was on there.
A new show where it's just dick jokes and occasional Jets talk.
He call it Body Baggers Inc. That would be his show.
Kyle, you down?
But yeah.
I mean, I still own 50% of the Jet take, so.
Well, if I ever make any profit, so.
Well, if you're running the show,
we should get Schofield in on this whole contract situation. But anyway,
no contract.
Well, and it doesn't matter because you guys were both minors at the time that it was agreed to, so it's not a legal contract. But that's neither here nor there. But either way, anyway. Oh boy, here we go. Anyway, moving on back to the football stuff. So Nania was on draft season, and he was talking about this article that he wrote about taking a deep dive into the undrafted free agents. And the one that I think really stuck out was Dimitri Flowers. If the Jets decide to really go with a fullback this year, he has a strong chance to make the roster because he really can do a little bit of everything. He can block, he can catch. He was actually the primary back for Oklahoma one game this year due to injuries. So here's a guy to keep an eye on. But again, nobody really knows how these draft classes turn out for a couple of years, Ben and Kyle, but at the very least, you would think Darnold, knock on wood, if he pans out, then no one else really even matters. But Nickerson looks like a possibility. Flowers could be a gem from the undrafted free agents. Herndon, for sure, is going to come in and compete for a spot right away with, I would imagine, Tomlinson, Leggett, Walford, and Hodges, and who's the other one? Sterling. So they've got a crowded. Let's just put it this way. There's going to be a lot of competition this offseason. Bowles preaches it, and now he gets to actually let it play out because he's got a ton of bodies.
Yeah, and the other guy was Henry Anderson, the guy they traded for.
Yes, that's right.
I think he's going to be your starting defensive end week day one. Well, I mean, if he gets hurt, then I think you're looking at Shepard or even later down the line. Scott, last question for you, and it's kind of one that's been floating around since the Jets didn't dress edge rusher. Look, Dante Fowler. Jags did not pick up his 5th-round option. He had 8 sacks last year. There's a guy like Shaq Barrett in Denver and Shane Ray, his teammate in Denver as well, since they drafted Bradley Chubb. A few edge rushers. Do you think the Jets could look into trading for an edge rusher, this offseason? I think the one that I saw was somebody proposed possibly trading Teddy Bridgewater for Dante Fowler. The Jags might need a quarterback. We could get an edge rusher. It might be a win-win, but I guess that trade wouldn't happen until August or something. But, Scott, your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, by the way, quick on Anderson, he has some sort of major throat problem, so there's question whether he's going to pass a physical. And if he doesn't, the Jets get the 7th-round pick back in next year's draft. So worst-case scenario, the trade gets washed out. But
Wait, a major throat injury?
This is what I was told, yes. Major throat problem, some sort of major issue there, and so he may not pass a physical. I don't know exactly the extent of it, but if he doesn't pass it, they'll get their pick back. But if he does, like you said, Ben, there's some potential there at the very least. As far as what you're talking about with edge rushers, Fowler is an interesting possibility. I don't understand why the Jaguars wouldn't pick up his option. There must be something I'm missing there, why you would let a guy like that go into a contract year and not pick up his option.
I mean, he's playing 4-3 defensive end. I think he'd actually also be better as a Jets 3-4 outside linebacker.
I think that's true too, but I still, even with the scheme situation, I don't understand the idea of you can keep this guy at a relatively inexpensive rate. I don't know why you wouldn't, but either way, Barrett's an interesting guy. With Bridgewater, listen, man, I don't know what the deal's going to be there because, look, he only got $500,000 in guarantees, and he is apparently throwing, but he has the biggest leg brace I've ever seen in my life on him right now. There was reports over the weekend, I think it was Rappaport was saying.
Looks like the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I mean, geez, that thing was thick as you could get.
Thicker than Sam Darnold.
Oh, boy. Are we still making that a thing, Kyle? Is that what's going on here?
Yes.
Okay. I thought Dalvin told you no on that one.
And I told him yes, so it's yes.
All right, well, you're going to have to be the one to defy Dalvin. I'll leave that to you. But, yeah, no, for real, though, that brace is insane. It's huge. So, look, he may not even pass another physical. They said he barely passed the first one. I don't know how much trade value he would possibly have. I mean, if he lights it up in camp and does really well in the preseason, maybe you could trade him, but I don't know. I know people don't want to hear this, but I was talking to Darryl Slater about this on Sunday, and I definitely think it's a possibility. If Bridgewater ends up getting cut because he's not healthy enough to play, you could very well be looking at Christian Hackenberg back here in 2018. I know nobody wants to hear that, but it could happen where he ends up being the third quarterback. So, look, if they could trade for an edge rusher, that's awesome. I just don't know what the price would be, if these guys would be available now or if maybe the deadline or if the Jets are interested. But there is supposed to be a ton of edge rushers in the draft. I haven't really gotten down to the nitty-gritty of – yes, and free agency. I haven't really gotten into the nitty-gritty of comprehensively studying the major edge rusher prospects except for Bosa, and oh my God, I think he might actually be better than his brother. That kid is unbelievable. But once we really start to get into the nitty-gritty and we start to watch their 2018 film once the games start, we'll know. But I guess if one of those guys is available at a decent price, it might be worth it. Otherwise, look, man, they've got a ton of money to play with. They still have their first rounder for next year. So you would think offensive line and edge rusher would be a major priority going into the 2018 or 2019 offseason, rather.
Yeah, I agree. Scott, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. It's your time to shine, man. Time for the plugs. TOJ.
Ben, do you have the soundbite?
No.
Yes, let's go. Scott, you gotta get it on cue. Ready, set, go.
This week at Turn on the Jets Digital, we've got a ton of great programming available for you. We started Sunday evening with Darryl Slater joining me for a full draft wrap-up. So if you want to hear us go through everything from the Sam Darnold pick, we went through the whole process of what led to it, all the way up through the undrafted free agents and what all of this means for the potential 53-man roster. That's available right now. And then on Tuesday, we had a brand new edition of Draft Season with Dalvin Osorio and Joe Malfa. They reviewed the draft, and then Michael Nania came on to talk about the undrafted free agents, so you can go ahead and download that now. Plus, tomorrow morning, they're going to be able to download this show, The Jet Take. So make sure you do that. If you weren't listening live, and why weren't you? Because you want to call in, don't you? You can listen on your way to work on Thursday morning. And then tomorrow, you'll get the Turn on the Jets podcast with Joe Caporoso. Joe's got Connor Rogers of his own podcast, Stick to the Jets, which normally airs Monday on our network. But Connor was doing stuff with Bleacher Report this weekend, so he joined Joe this week to break down the draft. So make sure you give that a listen because Connor is one of the best out there. And you know Joe always brings the thunder on the TOJ pod. And then on Friday, we've got my podcast with my buddy Big John Spiropoulos, Play Like a Jet. We go back in Jets history, seasons, careers, games. We break it down. We relive the memories with the guys who were there. And we're going to get into the final part of our lengthy series on the 2009 season with Thomas Jones, the former Pro Bowl running back. 2009 was a lot of fun because you had a brand new quarterback, a rookie quarterback from USC, go figure, who was coming in. He was a top 5 pick, Mark Sanchez. What did that season look like? How could it possibly compare to 2018? Go ahead and check it out. The first 10 parts are available now if you missed any of them, but part 11, the final part, will drop on Friday. And so there you go, boys. By the way, real quick, I've got some special Sam Darnold podcasts coming up. Everybody is really into the Darnold pods. If you missed the one that I did before the draft, it's a breakdown with former 12-year NFL veteran quarterback Dan Orlovsky, Mark Schofield of Inside the Pylon, Jim Colburn, our analytics expert, and Joey Kaufman of the Orange County Register, who covered Darnold for 2 years at USC. And they all broke down Darnold in detail. It's an hour long. It gives you a complete picture of Darnold. You can download that now. But we've got 2 very special Darnold podcasts coming up, taking a complete, thorough look, frame by frame, at his film from 2016 and 2017. 2016 film will be done by Kyle Smith, and the 2017 film done by Joe Blewett. And don't forget, Joe will be hosting the TOJ Film Room starting probably in about a month, but this will be a good preview for you. You'll get 2 separate Darnold pods breaking down 2016 and 2017. So if you're eager for more Sam Darnold content, there it is. So that's the full slate of stuff we've got at Turn on the Jets Digital. And guys, there's more coming. I know it seems almost impossible, but there's more coming. We are the home of so many great pods, including yours, and thank you so much for letting me call in and talk to you guys as always. And Kyle, listen, man, I'm not mad at you. Don't know why you thought I was, but next time, just upload that stuff, buddy.
Because Ben goes, Scott's mad at you. I was like, okay.
No, I said I was mad at you, and Scott is also frustrated.
Nope, that is not.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's literally what I said. Ask the people who were on.
Okay, we will.
If that's what Ben said, that sounds fair.
I said I was mad that you did not put it, and Scott is also frustrated with you.
I didn't think it was good enough. It's simple as that.
Oh, boy, God. So does that mean the show's not as good when I'm not here?
Could be. Is that what you're admitting, Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle, were you complimenting me?
No, I'm just saying that in the circumstances of having commercial breaks, people talking in the background.
So you were kind of trash as the host then?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So then how is
he backed himself into a corner now, Ben?
Yeah, doesn't that if you were the host and the show wasn't good, then do those 2 things not correlate?
No, not necessarily.
Scott, I think we got him. He's just going to deny, but he knows he locked himself into that corner. Wait, I was the sole host, and the show was bad. No, I can't. No. I was a good host.
I wasn't the sole host. Scott was on for like the first hour.
But by the way, guys, can I just say this? I really have to compliment you, and if anybody who's listening now hasn't heard it, please go back and listen to the episode with Darren Lee. You guys did a tremendous job. The thing I really liked about it, to be honest, is that
totally different.
Yeah, well, 100%. And not only that, but I'll be honest with you, player interviews, current players, a lot of times they bore me because it's the same stale questions that get asked and the same rehearsed answers. But you guys brought him out of his shell. You asked him different questions. You got him to talk more like a regular guy than some, media-trained football player. I loved when you guys asked him about the basketball thing and he talked about how Jordan Jenkins can't play ball. That to me was funny. Those are the kind of little things that I think really make an interview worthwhile with a current player because, like I said, so many times you listen to one of these guys on the radio or TV and it's the same rehearsed nonsense answers that they're basically trained to say and not give you anything interesting. But I thought you guys got a really interesting interview out of Darren Lee. So A, congratulations on that. You guys did a great job. And B, anybody who hasn't listened to that, please go ahead and do it now.
Thank you, Scott. That means a lot.
Thank you.
I'll give Kyle credit. He went after he brought up the basketball, Josh McCown playing basketball. But I
got in touch with my cultural roots. I went back home.
Scott, thank you for that compliment. Thank you for calling in. You run a great show over there at Play Like a Jet. You guys can follow him at Play Like a Jet 1. You can also go to Turn on the Jets and find all the TOJ digital podcasts for terrific Jets coverage throughout the offseason into the most exciting season the Jets will have had in probably since 2011, I guess. I mean, 2011 was the last time we were this excited to go into a season. Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure. We're looking forward to hearing from you next week, man.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it. And please, I beg of you, just try to be moderately civil until next week when I have to come in and break this up all over again.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah.
I love you.
Love you too, man.
All right. There it is. That's all I ask.
Scott, thanks for calling in, man.
Ben.
Oh, actually, I muted him. Sorry. Sorry. Oh, he's gone. All right. Sorry. Oh, I meant to hit cancel because I had the finger on the drop button. All right. Anyways, great end. Fitting end to the show. Kyle, absolute pleasure. The Jets finally have their franchise quarterback.
Yeah. I feel like we just did a really shady business transaction, and we can't celebrate it really because the IRS will be on our ass when they see us spending all the money.
I still don't know how Darnold fell, but
the Giants are stupid.
I think the Giants. I think we're gonna look back in 5 years and we'll know that the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants handed the Jets their franchise quarterback. Kyle, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. You can follow us at the Jet Take. You can follow me at Ben W. Blessington. You can follow Kyle at Kyle Fahey NFL on Twitter. You can follow our show any place you listen to podcasts. Just search the Jet Take. iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. We're all over the place. So just check us out. And as I said, go to turnthejets.com for the best Jets-related content out there. Obviously, we had Darren Lee on the show last week. We're working on a few other interviews through these coming weeks. We're in the downtime of the off season, so we got to make sure we bring the heat with some.
This kind of sucks. I always fall into that trap every year. I'm okay, free agency in the draft, then we're back to football, and then no, we got a solid 5 months.
Yeah, I know, but we got quite a while. We got a few months, probably until, and we have a rookie mini camp this next weekend. We have another mini camp I think in June or something. And then we have quite a bit of break until the draft or until training camp. Excuse me. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Jet Take. I'm your host, Ben Blessington. With me, Kyle Fahey. We will talk to you guys next week. We'll leave you with the best chant in the National Football League. Go Jets! Everybody, stay safe this weekend. We have a franchise quarterback.
Yes. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good.
Okay, I haven't seen the movie.